Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto does not care about Kushina part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Kushina's love, Naruto's hate. Hatred is something we all feel, whether it be to a person, an object, or an ideal. Uzumaki Naruto knows hatred better than anyone. His whole life he was hated, but he never showed hatred until that day, when the person he hated above all others entered his sight. Uzumaki Naruto was currently carrying the crazed cat Tora. He was severely starting to hate that stupid cat, and that was surprising. Naruto had a very short list of things that he hated. The only person who knew who Naruto hated was the Sandaime, and he refused to tell anyone. All Sarutobi said was that Naruto has good reasons to hate those whom he hates. The Sandaime was surprised that Naruto hated so few people with how much the village tortured and abused him, but it didn't surprise him that Naruto was beginning to hate Tora. Hell, the cat was thought to be Kyuubi's reincarnation by the villagers who didn't see Naruto as Kyuubi. Same thing with most of the ninja populace minus a few jounin. Naruto and his squad, led by Hatake Kakashi, was made up of Hareno Sakura, the Kunoichi of the year, Uchiha Sasuke, the Rookie of the Year, and Uzumaki Naruto, the Dobe of the Year. The squad had been assigned to capture Tora for the 5th time in the last 3 days. Naruto was carrying the cat through the doors, both eyes twitching at random, with tick marks appearing every 10 seconds. Ojiji-san, if I have to capture this cat one more time, I swear I am going to kill it. Not that anyone would mind, he said the last part under his breath as the daimyo's wife came running into the room and grabbed the cat. Oh my little Tora-chan, Mama is here. She began crushing the cat to her chest as it began turning a blue color. Naruto just stared at the cat in pity. Maybe I should kill the cat to put it out of its misery. I doubt that it would mind. Naruto shook that thought out of his head. He turned towards the Sandaime. He had an inexplicable urge to demand a higher-ranked mission, but he felt like giving the Sandaime a break. Hell, the old man was more like family rather than Hokage. Naruto looked down for a second at the thought of family. He then began to grit his teeth and clench his fist, unaware of the others watching him. Sakura was looking at the Dobe with concerned curiosity. I have never seen him like this. What happened to the blonde baka? She banished these thoughts and went back to staring at Sasuke, who was having similar thoughts. Sasuke stared at the clenched fist before it began to relax. What's with the Dobe? Doesn't matter. Sasuke then went back to brooding. Kakashi looked at his blonde student, with a barely noticeable amount of grief in his eyes. I failed you, sensei, again. Kakashi went back to reading his book, hoping it would drown out his pain thoughts. Sarutobi was watching the blonde, thinking through what he was about to do. Team 7 had completed enough missions to qualify for a C rank, but he also had to deal with what he was about to do to Naruto. Maybe this isn't the best idea. Sarutobi began to think to the conversation he had last night. Flashback. Sarutobi Hiruzen was talking to a woman in the middle of a rainstorm. She had asked to meet him here for a favor. It was no problem to meet her there, the problem was the favor. Kushina, I know how badly you want this, but please, I beg you, Sarutobi. I just want to make it up to him for what I did. Sarutobi shook his head. Kushina, even if I am capable of doing this, it would have to be under strict terms. Even after those terms are met, there is no guarantee he will listen. Kushina lowered her head. I know, but I can still try. Please, I have never asked you for anything else. Please just give me this one chance. Sarutobi looked at Kushina. She was absolutely pitiful. She was begging on her hands and knees in the middle of a rainstorm. She truly wanted this. Sarutobi grabbed his face and began to massage his temples. He was left with two choices: do as she asks and possibly give her a chance to redeem herself, or say no and have her go into a depression. Most leaders would choose the first option in a heartbeat if they had no knowledge of the past the two held. Sarutobi looked at the begging redhead. I am getting too old for this shit. Very well, Kushina, but you know the terms you have to follow in our agreement. Kushina smiled a massive smile and nodded her head. Thank you, Sandaime-sama. She stood up and ran back to her home, preparing for the next day. Sarutobi took out his pipe and placed a small amount of tobacco in it before lighting it up with a katon jutsu. I wonder if I made the right decision. Naruto. Sarutobi turned around and began to walk towards the Hokage Tower, preparing for the next day. End flashback. Since then he has been dreading the moment he dropped the bomb on the young blonde, especially after what happened, but he couldn't pull out of the deal at the last minute. He had no other choice. A deal is a deal. Okay, Team 7 said. Team stopped what they were doing and turned towards the Hokage. I am happy to announce that you have completed the required amount of missions to qualify for a C rank. Yada, finally a C rank. Time for me to finally show my awesome skills. Sarutobi watched as Naruto cheered for his team finally going on a C rank. It was now or never. Actually, Naruto, you won't be going on the C rank. What? Are you serious, Ojiji? Naruto was seriously depressed that he couldn't go on a C rank with his team. Ha, yeah, there is no way Naruto could ever be ready for a C rank, right, Sasuke-kun? Sakura looked towards her crush, who was actually smirking. HNN, the dobe will probably be stuck with a D rank mission he can't screw up with. Sasuke continued to smirk at the blonde's misfortune. Kakashi was trying to calm Naruto down. Now Naruto, I'm sure that the Hokage has a good reason for pulling you from the mission. Kakashi was about to continue reasoning with the blonde. Yeah, he probably thinks the dead last can't handle anything above C rank. Team 7 turned around to see Inuzuka Kiba enter with his teammates, and sensei Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino, and his sensei Yuhi Kurinai. Naruto snarled at the Inuzuka heir. Kakashi tried to get the blonde to calm down when the door opened to reveal Shikamaru and his squad. Ugh, this is so troublesome. Can't you two go one day without trying to rip each other's heads off? Naruto just did his usual face pout while Kiba just scoffed. Hinata tried to play peacemaker. And now Kiba-kun, we don't need TT to get everyone upset. Kiba just looked at his longtime friend and sighed. She always knew which buttons to push. Hell, they have been friends since before the academy, and he had tried numerous times to get her confidence up so she can ask out Naruto. Kiba looked at the blonde, wondering how he could possibly be so clueless. Hinata-san raises valid points. Kiba, should we attempt to further instigate our comrades, it would only heighten our current amounts of stress between our groups. Everyone just looked confused until Irika, who was looking at Naruto's file wondering why he couldn't do the C rank with his team. Shino means that we need to be kinder to our comrades, so they in turn will be kind to you. Everyone nodded at Irika's explanation, not noticing the stress showing in Irika's eyes. Why can't Naruto be allowed to do a simple C rank mission? Naruto may be the dead last, but there have been worse students to come out of the academy. What are you thinking, Sarutobi? His musings were cut off by the Sandaime speaking up. Actually, Naruto will have higher than a D rank mission. Everyone looked confused for a moment, but Naruto immediately was excited. Awesome, I get to do a C rank mission all by myself. Naruto began jumping around like an idiot, while everyone had different reactions going through their heads. Naruto-kun, I'm so happy for you. Man, lucky guy, and I have to deal with just D ranks with my pack. Oh well, at least I have good pack mates. Intriguing. Troublesome blonde. Munch, 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 wow. That blonde baka, AC, rank all his own. I have got to work harder to impress Sasuke-kun. The dope, no way, he shouldn't be getting a mission all his own. That baka shouldn't get a mission all his own. Sasuke-kun should be getting that mission, Chashinaro. Kakashi's student, no way. I would expect Sasuke but not Naruto. What are you up to, Dad? Naruto, something tells me things are going to go bad and fast. Oh well, back to Ika. Ooh, Sazaira, you naughty girl. Irika was looking at the Sandaime in shock. Sandaime-sama, I understand Naruto has decent skills, but I doubt he could complete a C rank on his own. Sarutobi turned his head towards Irika. Naruto was specially selected by the client, and it's A rank. What? Sandaime-sama, Naruto is just a genin. I doubt he could handle a mission of that caliber on his own. Naruto simply kept on jumping around when he heard he was going on an A rank before he stopped. Awesome, I am going on an A rank, I'll go pack. Naruto was about to run towards the door when Sarutobi stopped him. Actually, Naruto, the mission is in the village. Naruto turned towards Sarutobi and walked back up. So when do I meet the client, Sandaime-sama? Naruto decided to be respectful to the old man, not knowing what he was about to pull. Sarutobi was about to call to send the client and Sandaime-sama. Everyone turned their heads to the door to see Anko Mitarashi. Some girl with red hair is arguing with a drunk. Gasp! Everyone turned their heads to see a wide-eyed Naruto with a considerable amount of hateful fear in his eyes. It can't be her, no it can't be, Ojiji wouldn't, so that's the game you're playing. Naruto gritted his teeth and slowly turned his head towards Sarutobi, realizing what he was trying to pull again. Who is the client? Naruto asked the question with barely contained aggression and a small amount of Ki being released. Everyone was startled by the new aggression held in the blonde. Sarutobi sighed before he yelled, "Send them in." Naruto was about to ask the question again when he heard the door open. He turned his head to see an old man enter with a bottle of sake. He looked at them in a disappointed manner, but he didn't care about that. What he cared about was the next person to enter the room. Everyone was wide-eyed at the next person who entered. The one who entered was Namake's Kushina, widow of the Yondaime. She was the most wanted bachelorette in all of Konoha. She was also the most dangerous kunoichi in Fire Country and most of the elemental nations. They looked to see that no one else was coming, so they assumed that this was the client, especially since she was the only person who had enough money to pay for an A-rank mission. Naruto-kun. Man, lucky dog, he gets to spend a long amount of time with a slamming hot redhead, damn. How curious. Man, this is so troublesome. Munch, 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 geez Naruto, you will have enough money working with her to buy Ichirakas. That blonde dobe hired by the Namikaze Kushina, damn. What is with the dobe? He was happy a moment ago, but when the red-haired woman was mentioned him. That baka gets to do an A rank for Namikaze Kushina, no way Sasuke-kun should have been the one asked to do that / Cha Shinaro. Oh boy, what are you doing, dad / Sandame-sama? What's with the tension, I wonder? Sarutobi began to speak. Team 7 minus Naruto will be escorting Tazuna to the Land of Waves, and Uzumaki Naruto will be doing an A-rank mission for Namikaze Kushina. Now Sarutobi was immediately shut up when he felt a massive burst of killing intent radiating from the blonde. Said blonde snapped his head towards Sarutobi, anger evident in his eyes. What the fuck, Sarutobi? I made it clear years ago I want nothing to do with that woman. Sarutobi wanted to speak. Don't you interrupt me, old man. I made it very clear that I am never going near her again, and here you are, assigning me a mission that I will have to be near her. I remember our agreement, Sarutobi. I doubt you have forgotten it. Everyone was confused while Kushina began to tear up. Please, please, Naruto. Kushina was letting more tears fall with every second that passed. I will not take the mission, Sarutobi. I will do D-rank missions for the rest of my life. I will hand in my shinobi license. I will kiss Sasuke again before I ever, and I mean ever. He snapped his head towards Kushina. Do anything for her. The killing intent slowly began to drop. Naruto then turned his head back to Sarutobi. Where are we to meet for the C rank? Sarutobi sighed before speaking. Naruto, I assigned this mission to you. You are going to. I am not doing anything for her. Is there any part of that you do not seem to get? Sarutobi sighed, knowing there was no convincing the blonde otherwise. Team 7 including Naruto will meet at the front gate tomorrow at noon. Dismissed. Naruto turned around and walked past the genin, all of them wondering the same thing. What could she have done to merit this amount of hatred? They watched as the blonde walked past Kushina. They watched as Kushina grabbed his shoulder. Kushina POV. Kushina was having various thoughts run through her head. No, please, Naruto. I beg you, don't, please, take the mission. She watched as Sarutobi resigned himself and pulled the mission. No, please, don't, please. Kushina watched as Naruto walked through the genins. Do you truly hate me that much? Naruto was walking past her. I can't let it end like this. She grabbed Naruto's shoulder. General POV. Naruto stopped in his tracks and snarled out, "Let go of me, Namikaze." She didn't let go. Naruto reached for his kunai pouch, surprising everyone but the Sandame in the room. Naruto was about to grab a kunai when Kushina fell to the floor. Naruto, please, I beg you. I know what I did to you was wrong, and you have every right to hate me. Kushina looked to Naruto. But please, my Sochi, I beg you, give me one chance to redeem myself. She sobbed out the last sentence, and everyone was shocked by this. Hinata was wide-eyed. Kiba was shocked beyond belief. Shino actually showed some emotion. Ino stopped talking. Choji stopped eating. Shikamaru's jaw dropped. Sasuke and Sakura were stuttering. All of them had the same thought. He's her son. Naruto looked at the begging Kushina. He closed his eyes and let out a sigh. Kushina smiled and was about to wrap her son in a hug, but she was shocked when his eyes opened to show sheer and utter hatred running through them. But she was even more shocked by what came next. Smack, she fell to the floor clutching her cheek. She then looked up into her son's hate-filled eyes as he ground his teeth together. You lost the right to call me your Sochi long ago. Naruto turned straight towards the door and kicked it open, unaware of the shocked expressions that followed him. Kushina meanwhile was sobbing to herself while she clutched her cheek. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She kept repeating that phrase in her head as she walked out of the mission's office. Meanwhile the genins were shocked. Naruto just slapped the Namikaze's head, and to top it all off, the woman was his mother. What the hell happened? Kiba was gritting his teeth. That's his mother. Damn it, a son doesn't hit their mother, especially when they are so vulnerable. Hinata was shivering. Naruto-kun, what did your mother do to you to make you hate her so much? Shino couldn't even comprehend what was going on. That was his mother. She was begging on her knees and he slapped her? Ino and Sakura had the same thought, and Naruto baka why? Choji was having the same thought as his best friend, more than just troublesome. Sasuke was gritting his teeth. He still has his mother, and he treats her like that bastard. No one looked to see the Sandame looking at the portrait of the Yandame, Naruto's father. Forgive me, my friend, for failing your son. He went back to his paperwork. Naruto was packing up for the C rank, and boy was he pissed off. Damn OGG, tried to set me up with that woman, he knows we have a deal, so why the fuck did he try that? Naruto continued packing his materials. He had everything ready for the coming mission, now all that was required was that he waits. Naruto looked out of his broken window. It was dark out, so he decided to go to sleep. Naruto crawled into his bed unaware of the day that would come tomorrow. Next day. Naruto had arrived at the front gate about an hour after they were asked to be there. As he walked up to the gates, he saw that Tazuna was sitting there with Sasuke and Sakura. Damn, he really did not want to deal with those two right now. Naruto continued to walk, but made sure he was away from the other two and that no one could see him. He waited another hour for his sensei to show up. After an hour, Kakashi finally showed up. Oh hey guys, have any of you seen Naruto? He's usually here. Sasuke snorted in disgust at the mention of the blonde while Sakura simply shook her head. I'm right here, sensei. Everyone turned around to see Naruto standing in the shadows. He walked out of the shadows with that usual grin on his face. Sasuke sneered at the blonde and walked up to him. Sasuke then grabbed Naruto by the shirt and brought him to his face. What the fuck was that stunt you pulled yesterday? You slapped your own mother, and on top of ahaha. Sasuke immediately stopped his rant when he felt Naruto begin to grip his wrist. Surprisingly, Naruto had a strong grip and man did it hurt. Naruto looked at Sasuke in the eyes and he could have sworn they flashed red for a moment. She is not my mother, got it? He pushed Sasuke off of him and proceeded to walk past him. Sasuke was about to make a grab for Naruto when Kakashi stopped him. Sasuke, I think it would be best if you left Naruto alone. Kakashi walked back to the front of the group while Sasuke glared at Naruto's back. Alright team, let's move out. Naruto walked behind Kakashi while Sasuke and Sakura took up the rear, both staring at the blonde's back. Undisclosed location. So let me get this straight, you want me to capture one brat. And you are willing to pay twice what I normally request for a mission like this. Does that about cover it? Zabuza had been contacted by some person in Konoha and was currently doing business with the person. Yes, I want him alive and am willing to pay double. If it becomes more complicated then I will triple it. Zabuza was wide-eyed at his client's request, but he smirked and was inwardly planning. With this much money I will be able to gather enough followers to take down the Mizukage. Looks like I will be Mizukage soon enough. Zabuza smirked and gave his answer. You have a deal, Namikaze-sama. Zabuza walked out of the inn where Kushina had asked that they meet. His apprentice Haku was waiting outside, petting his pet bunny. Kushina stayed in the room as she rooted through her purse. She finally found what she was looking for. She pulled out a picture frame with a picture of Uzumaki Naruto, her son. She stroked the whisker marks on his cheeks. She wept as she clutched the picture to her chest, crying about the son who hated her. 3 days later with Team 7. Sasuke had tried numerous times to talk to Naruto about his mother, each one proved to be utterly useless. Naruto even turned down Sakura's requests for answers. Kakashi had to get the two away from Naruto every time he was about to go nuts on them. He was currently trying to make sure Naruto didn't blow up at the currently annoying his head off Sasuke. Damn it, Naruto, she is your mother, so why did you do that? Naruto glared at Sasuke. Shut up. Naruto began clutching his fists. Naruto, answer me. You slapped her, and she was begging on her knees. Are you so pathetic that you have to slap a vulnerable mother? Sasuke was releasing a bit of Ki, but it was nothing compared to the built-up Ki being released by the blonde. Shut up. Naruto's pupils began to dilate and form into slits, not that anyone noticed. Dobe, you say you're an orphan yet you have still living family. What the fuck, man, you should be hugging your mother. Crunch. Sasuke was immediately shut up by a fist careening with his nose, breaking the cartilage. Kakashi managed to catch Sasuke from falling while Tazuna dropped his bottle of sake. Sakura ran to Sasuke and started patching up his nose. Naruto, what the hell? Sasuke just wanted to know something. Naruto glared at Sakura with a small amount of killing intent, instantly shutting her up. Quiet, Sakura, I am in no mood for your shrieking. He turned around and continued to walk up the path towards Wave. After they had patched up Sasuke's nose, Sakura stayed a good distance away from the blonde, scared of enticing his wrath. Sasuke simply glared at Naruto. Kakashi was making sure Naruto didn't go crazy. Tazuna was trying to keep himself calm. No one noticed the two ninja following them. The Demon Brothers. Meizu and Gozu were watching their targets. Gato had hired their master Momochi Zabuza. He asked that they take out the bridge builder Tazuna, while another client, Namikaze Kushina, wanted them to capture some blonde brat alive. They would only get paid if he was alive. Brother Meizu, should we strike now? Meizu looked at his brother. No, brother Gozu, we will attack when they are vulnerable. The two looked at each other, agreed. They then shined off, waiting for the time to strike. That night, Naruto was on night watch duty. He had tried to ignore Sasuke and Sakura talking about him behind his back, but with each passing second of them calling him moody. Hell, those two have no idea the shit he had to go through in life, so they had no right to judge him. He sighed as he stared at the fire. He was completely unaware of the old man watching him. Tazuna had originally thought that the blonde would be afraid of his own shadow as soon as he saw the Gaki, but when he saw him slap his mother like that, he wondered just how much he knew of the blonde. He decided to talk to him to see what was up. Hey brat. Naruto looked at the man, clearly annoyed. The name is Naruto, not brat, get it right. He spoke in a clearly annoyed tone. Tazuna sighed, thinking that Naruto would be a tough nut to crack. Look, Naruto, why is it you hate your mother? The air grew noticeably colder at the mention of the woman. I would thank you not to mention her around me, Tazuna-san. My life is difficult enough without remembering that wench. Tazuna cringed at the bluntness of Naruto's insult towards his own flesh and blood. Yet he also wondered how bad Naruto's life could possibly be. Hell and Wave people had it bad, and they never did what this kid did to his own mother. How bad has your life been? Naruto looked at Tazuna before he went back to poking at the fire. He remained silent for a while. Tazuna sighed in exasperation. Fine, whatever. He went back to looking at the fire. I was 5. Tazuna looked at the blonde, finally thinking he could get something out of him. I was walking home to my rundown apartment, right in the middle of the red light district. Tazuna gasped. The red light district had to be the worst place for a 5-year-old to be. Surprisingly, the ones who lived in the red light district actually treated me nicely. Naruto chuckled as Tazuna looked at him in surprise. Can you imagine the scummiest criminals in all of Konoha, the worst of the worst, were the only ones to treat me like a human being? Tazuna was visibly shaken. I was walking home from Ojiji-san's office. He had just signed me up for the Ninja Academy. I wanted to join the ninja course so badly it hurt. Naruto looked down at that point. But I was passing through the shinobi sector. What was I thinking? He brought his knees to his chest as Tazuna began to visibly cringe a bit. A couple of A and B who normally just glare at me were drunk off their rocker. Once they saw me, they began to chase me through the streets. After a while, I found myself in a dead-end alley. Naruto let a few tears fall at that point before he swallowed and continued. They tied me up and beat me to near submission, but because of a curse my own father put on me, I have no scars. They wanted to make a lasting impression on me, show the demon brat who is in charge. Tazuna was shaking at that point as Naruto began to remove his jacket and shirt. Most people think I suck at genjutsu, and they're right, but that's only because I have to keep one on at all times. Naruto ran through a few hand seals. The genjutsu I spent 3 months reading through genjutsu scrolls to make it. Also, it couldn't be detected, dispelled, or copied. Naruto finished the hand seals as his hand glowed blue. He then passed it over an area on his chest. The lasting mark they left on my body was incredibly painful. They had used a katon jutsu to heat up a kunai knife after they had charged it up with chakra. They carved this into my chest. But because of my curse it kept healing, so they kept carving it into my chest for what felt like hours, until one of them decided it would leave a more lasting mark by searing my flesh and then using an ice-cold kunai to carve it, and that was my 4th permanent scar. Tazuna looked at the area Naruto indicated. Right in the area that looked like it had been set ablaze with a welding torch, and then rapidly cooled, was the kanji for murderer. Tazuna also noticed that there was another scar that ran across the kanji. I was found by the local whore. She brought me to the whorehouse where I was treated for my injuries. Many a night I was brought to the whorehouse to heal my wounds and injuries. Hell, some of them even offered a little fun as I grew older. Naruto immediately grew depressed afterwards. They were the only friends and family I had. Eventually I made friends with the local bums, the criminals. Hell, I even made friends with a few guys that aren't supposed to be in Konoha. I helped them, and all I ask is that they hide my secret. Naruto went back to poking the fire. Tazuna looked at the blonde. Why do you hide them? Naruto scoffed at this. He looked at Tazuna with an emotionless gaze before answering. Pity. Naruto stood up but was stopped by Tazuna. What do you mean? Why do you hide it? Because of pity? Naruto turned towards the old man. I hate pity. I hate it more than I hate anything. Every time I see that pathetic look in someone's eyes, it disgusts me. Pity won't heal my scars. Pity won't give me back my innocence. Pity won't heal what that wench did to me. I ain't much for pity, Tazuna. Naruto glared right into Tazuna's eyes. It's never gotten me anything. Naruto walked past Tazuna, but he had to jump back as a set of needles went past his head, barely missing him. Naruto snapped his head to see 2 Miss Nin carrying around blowguns. Both had some sort of massive claw connected by a sharpened chain. They wore masks to conceal the lower half of their faces. Naruto snapped his head towards Tazuna. Tazuna, wake the others. I'll hold them off. Naruto turned towards the 2 Miss Nin who were conversing amongst themselves. The blonde brat is to be taken alive, but the bridge builder must be killed. The one with 2 horns on his headband spoke. You kill the bridge builder, I will subdue the boy. The two did some odd movement with their claws before the chains separated. One ran towards Tazuna while the other ran towards Naruto with a syringe in his hand. Naruto was confused. Why did one of them have a syringe? He didn't have time to ponder this because he had to dodge a strike from the man that would have severely injured him. He ducked the man as he swept a claw at where his head would have been. Naruto ducked to feel the syringe enter his arm as the fluid began running through him. Naruto started feeling extremely drowsy as the last thing he saw was someone kicking the Mist Nin in the face. With Kakashi. Kakashi had tied up the 2 assailants and managed to prop Naruto up. He looked Naruto over and sighed. Naruto had been given a high dosage of tranquilizer, but why? Kakashi immediately turned his head towards Tazuna. You have a lot of explaining to do, Tazuna-san. Tazuna looked sheepish for a moment before he sighed. Alright, look, this is what's going on. Insert sob story here. Kakashi scrunched his forehead, wondering what the hell was going on. As far as what Tazuna's story could tell, Gato wasn't after Naruto, so why did the demon brothers work so hard to tranquilize him when they could have easily killed him? Kakashi looked to see that Naruto wouldn't be waking up for a while. He now had to make the decision on whether or not they would continue the mission or not. Well guys, what do you think? Do you want to continue the mission? Sasuke looked at his hands for a moment before he smirked. Yeah, like I'm going to let the dope rip on me for not continuing the mission. Sakura looked at Sasuke, then at Naruto. After a moment of this she answered. Yes, I don't want to have the fact that we left them to die beyond my conscience. Kakashi nodded and picked up Naruto. Sakura was confused for a moment. Sensei, don't you think Naruto would have an opinion on this? Kakashi smiled at Sakura. Sakura, we could be facing off against 100 S-rank missing Nin and Naruto would still want to continue the mission. I don't think he would have a problem with continuing the mission if we are just going to be fighting off a few jounin. Sakura nodded in approval, while Sasuke kept glaring at Naruto. Kakashi sighed in exasperation. If Sasuke knew what his mother did to him, he would completely agree with everything Naruto did to her. Kakashi sighed at that thought and began to walk while Tazuna and his team followed. 1 day later, undisclosed location. How the fuck could you possibly have failed to kill the bridge builder and capture a green as a grasshopper's ass Genin? The demon brothers cowered in fear of Zabuza. After Kakashi and his team left, they managed to cut the ropes so they could report to their master, and boy was he pissed. Zabuza-sama, please, we managed to subdue the brat and almost got away, but we were attacked by the copy ninja Hatake Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. Zabuza raised an eyebrow at that. So looks like things have become more complicated. He inwardly smirked. Not only could he get a bit more cash for killing the bridge builder, but he could also get a shitload more cash to capture the brat. It was a win-win situation for him. Alright, both of you will be accompanying me to capture the brat, while you two are to kill the bridge builder. Haku will assist us. After all, he does have the best aim, and he will most likely paralyze the brat, unlike me who would just kill him. The two nodded, knowing that every single capture mission that they have done was only successful because of Haku. Zabuza. The three turned around to see a pudgy man wearing a crappy suit being flanked by 2 mediocre samurai. I asked you to kill the bridge builder. I don't remember any part of the mission to capture some genin brat. Zabuza snorted in contempt at the man. You aren't the only contractor I have, Gato, and on top of that you should probably increase the bounty on Tazuna's head, otherwise he won't be worth my time to kill. Gato growled but sighed. Doesn't matter, so long as that damn Tazuna is dead. Then again, this brat must be worth something. I'll have to check in on it myself. Gato inwardly smirked as he nodded his head. He left the room while Zabuza began planning how he would kill the bridge builder and capture Uzumaki Naruto, unaware that Gato was listening to his entire plan. With Team 7, 2 days later. Team 7 had crossed the river thanks to a rower who had managed to keep out of Gato's claws. The Y were now walking through a forest as an odd mist began to roll in. Naruto was even more on edge. Kakashi had told him that those guys had tried to capture him, but why? He was trying to calm down when he heard something in the bushes. He immediately threw a kunai in the bushes. Sakura ran over to find a white rabbit. Naruto, you baka, look at what you did to this poor rabbit. Man, is it any wonder you are so cruel to your MHMMH? Sakura was immediately shut up as Kakashi put a hand over her mouth. He began looking around as his eyes suddenly widened. Get down! Naruto dropped to the ground while Kakashi brought down Sakura as Sasuke brought down the client. Kakashi looked up to see a massive Zanbatsu-styled guillotine. The next moment he saw a man jump on the guillotine. He had shinobi-style pants, a bunch of bandages covering up his mouth, and a set of full-arm warmers. Kakashi went wide-eyed when he realized who it was. Momochi Zabuza, ex-Kiri Nin head of ANBU Black Ops, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, known throughout the elemental countries as the Kirigakure no Kijin. What a pleasant surprise. Kakashi got into a fighting stance as Sasuke began to stand up. Naruto had managed to avoid the sword and had gotten a kunai out. Sakura had stood up and had readied a kunai as well. Zabuza chuckled. Sharingan to Kakashi, the thief of 1,000 jutsus, single-handedly fought off the Tsuchikage when he led an attack on Konoha. I'm honored. Zabuza snapped his fingers as 3 more Kiri-nuke-nin appeared. Capture the blonde, kill the rest. The one wearing a hunter-nin mask ran at the blonde while Zabuza did a back flip and grabbed his sword. He snapped his head towards Kakashi as the demon brothers ran at Sasuke and Sakura. Zabuza ripped the sword out of the tree and swung it down on Kakashi. Naruto watched as the one wearing a hunter-nin mask charged at him, with one thought going through his head: what do they want with me? Naruto ducked to the side as the nuke nin threw a hail of saban needles at him. Naruto threw a kunai at the nin as he pulled out a kunai knife, charging at the nuke nin. The ex-Kiri nin ducked under Naruto's kunai and sent him flying over his shoulder. Naruto landed right on his back but managed to jump back up as he threw a kunai at the ninja. The ninja sidestepped the kunai and threw a hail of saban needles at Naruto. Naruto jumped when he saw the saban and managed to avoid most of them. A few, however, managed to get in his leg. Aggh, Naruto fell to the ground clutching his leg as the Kiri nin walked over to him. Naruto placed his hands in his favorite seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and 12 clones appeared. They all charged at the ninja while Naruto started ripping the saban out of his leg. Shit, why the fuck are these guys trying to capture me? Naruto pulled out the last saban as the ninja destroyed the last of his clones. He jumped away as the ninja shoved a syringe into the ground where his leg used to be. Hey, why the hell are you trying so hard to capture me? The ninja looked at Naruto and threw a set of shuriken that pinned one of Naruto's sleeves. The ninja ran at Naruto and pulled out a few saban that Naruto barely noticed had something dripping from them. He jumped away as the ninja managed to get one into his arm. Naruto leaped away. Haku was running right at him. Naruto smirked and was about to get into a fighting stance when he realized he couldn't move his arm. He panicked and had to sidestep Haku, but ended up falling over his own feet when he started to feel numb. The ninja turned to Naruto. I see the venom is taking effect. The ninja removed his mask to reveal a very effeminate face. Naruto shouted, Venom, what venom? The ninja pulled out a bit of rope as he walked over to Naruto. I extracted this venom from a species of snake. They paralyze their prey, and then eat them alive. A small dosage of the venom can force a human to lose all feeling in their limbs. It is useful in hunter-nin squads when they wish to capture their opponents. Luckily, it is non-lethal, so overdosing the amounts administered to a human is not a problem. The ninja was about to start tying up Naruto crack. But Naruto managed to move a limb enough to get the ninja in the side of his face. The ninja grabbed his face and looked at the blonde. Why isn't the venom working? Naruto smirked at the ninja. I have been poisoned so many times I can't even begin to tell you how many times I have to check my food. Luckily my body has a natural filter that destroys any foreign substance, and the best part is that whatever it was that was in my body, it will never affect me again. Naruto ripped out a kunai. Come on, bastard, show me what you've got. The ninja pulled out a kunai and a set of saban as Naruto charged at him. With Kakashi. Kakashi had to jump out of the way as Zabuza brought his sword down. He pulled out a kunai and threw it at Zabuza. The kunai connected with Zabuza only for him to dissolve into water. Ha 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 ha, how do you like it, Kakashi? Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, very useful. Kakashi turned around to see that Zabuza had somehow gotten behind him and was now swinging his massive sword at him. Kakashi barely avoided the blade as he jumped over it and stood on the blade's edge. He pulled out a kunai and made a single knife thrust at Zabuza. Zabuza smirked as he used his other hand to grab Kakashi's wrist and threw him off the sword. Kakashi managed to land on his feet where he began panting. Damn, Zabuza is clearly after Naruto. What does he want with him? I can't waste any time. These guys are clearly more skilled than Sasuke, Sakura, or Naruto. Time to bring it out. Kakashi reached up to his forehead protector, causing Zabuza to smirk in anticipation. Ah, the famous Sharingan, I was wondering when you were going to bring it out. Zabuza brought his blade up. He then quirked an eyebrow when he saw Kakashi reach for his kunai pouch. Do you honestly think a kunai is going to help you? He was about to charge when Kakashi began to chuckle. Oh Zabuza, whoever said I was bringing out a kunai? The hand that was right next to the kunai pouch began to glow with white chakra, causing a seal to appear on the kunai pouch. He then swept his hand over the seal, causing a white poof of smoke. Kakashi pulled his hand away from the kunai pouch to reveal a tanto, but not just any tanto, the Hako Chikuratu. Zabuza was wide-eyed. Impossible, that blade was destroyed in the Third Great Ninja War. Kakashi raised his blade at eye level, pointing it at Zabuza. It has been remade. Kakashi ran at Zabuza, Sharingan spinning and the tanto glowing with white light. With Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke was using his kunai to block their claw strikes while Sakura was trying to use what few genjutsu she knew to confuse the nuke knee. Neither of them were in the best of shape. Sasuke had gotten a small cut on his arm, but thanks to one of his kunai he was able to bleed out most of the poison. Sakura had managed to avoid some of the blows, but the poison was beginning to affect her. Sasuke was starting to tire as well. He had barely managed to avoid being wrapped up in their chain blade but managed to open a fairly large wound on his arm. Shit, any more of this and I am going to die. He sidestepped one of the demon brothers as they shoved their clawed gauntlets into the ground. The other brother jumped over him and swung his claw downwards. Sasuke threw a kunai that grazed the nuke nin's arm. The nuke nin clutched his arm as his brother ran over to him. Brother Meizu, do you need assistance? His brother looked at him. No, brother Gozu, it's merely a scratch. He looked at Sakura. He then looked at his brother. Shall we finish the wench first? His brother looked back at him. Indeed, brother. The two looked at each other. Agreed. They charged at Sakura. Sasuke was too far away, so he was unable to help her. The two brothers were only a foot away from her. The one on the left shoved his claw to her head, while the other aimed for her abdomen. Squlch. Sakura was impaled. The two brothers were about to pull them out when the girl looked at them with glowing red eyes. She smiled a massive smile as the grass below them began to grow to insane proportions. The grass then began to wrap around their legs. The brothers immediately looked around before they flooded their systems with chakra. They watched as the thing that was in their claws turned into a log. In rage, they ripped their claws out of the log before turning around to see a panting Sakura and a nervous Sasuke. So, a kawarimi and a genjutsu just as we were about to kill the girl. How resourceful, but enough talk. Come brother, take the girl, the brat is mine. His brother got into a crouched position. Of course, brother, skin them alive. The two ran forwards as Sasuke prepared a few hand seals. Katon, Gokaku no Jutsu. He blew out a fireball as the two brothers used their hands in unison with each other, screaming at the same time. Suiton, Sujin Hiki. The two suddenly stopped as a wall of water surrounded them, stopping the fireball in its tracks. Sasuke pulled out a windmill shuriken and threw it at the demon brothers. With Naruto. Naruto ran at the ninja as he brought up the kunai. They clashed their kunais. Naruto smirked as he was about to pull out another kunai, when the ninja threw the 3 Senbon into points in his neck. Naruto dropped the kunai as he slumped to the ground. Damn it, what the fuck did you do to me? The man looked towards Naruto. I pierced some of your central nerves, the first Senbon connected to your primary movement nerves, the second Senbon connected to your primary chakra network, and the final Senbon connected to your central command system. If you didn't understand that, then I will make it clear. I shut down your movement capabilities, I shut off your ability to use your own chakra, and I also made it so in the next few seconds you will be unconscious. Thump. The man looked at Naruto as he lost consciousness. Now to finish off those other pests. The man walked away unaware of the mistake he made. Mindscape. A set of red eyes looked at an unconscious Naruto. A massive smirk appeared under the glowing red orbs. Looks like my container needs my assistance. How delightful. A wave of crimson chakra flowed over the blonde as the demon smirked. You should thank your father for sealing me in a runt like you. Naruto's eyes snapped open, revealing crimson orbs. Kyuubi was in control for now. Outside. The nuke nin was about to walk off to help fight Sasuke and Sakura when he felt a massive buildup of chakra, but this was no ordinary chakra. He turned around to see a crimson aura begin to surround Naruto's body. He watched as the blonde pulled himself up from the ground. He looked closer as the whisker marks on his face deepened, his nails extended and became claws. He slowly raised his head and snarled, showing massive fangs coming from his mouth. Naruto snapped his eyes open to reveal red slitted eyes. The nuke nin began to sweat and tremble as the blonde snarled at him. Naruto swung his head back and unleashed a deafening roar. Grrragggggggh. The mere sound of the roar sent a wave of raw chakra at the nuke nin and his comrades. With Kakashi. Kakashi was thrown back along with Zabuza as a massive wave of chakra tore through the trees and forcing Zabuza's Kirigakure no Jutsu to dispel. Kakashi was wide-eyed as he recognized the foul chakra. Oh god, is the 9-tailed fox loose? This is bad. Kakashi was blown back by another wave of raw chakra. Zabuza was actually trembling. No way is this any of my men, is this one of Kakashi's brats? Zabuza tried to get up but was knocked back down by another wave of chakra. With Sasuke and Sakura. The windmill shuriken that was about to hit the demon brothers was shot away by a wave of chakra that blew the demon brothers back. The two managed to grab the ground with their massive claws. Sasuke and Sakura were thrown to the tree line. The two were shaking in fear at the foul energy, and it was coming from where they last saw Naruto. This can't be Naruto, can it? Was the thought going through both their heads. General POV. Everyone looked in the direction they felt the dark chakra. As the mist began to clear, they were terrified at what they were seeing. Naruto was standing in a crater that was made from the raw buildup of chakra. There was a red chakra swirling around him like a tornado, and his eyes were like looking into the pits of hell themselves, such hatred, anger, bloodlust. Naruto looked around as he saw the ninja he was fighting. He took a single step forwards as he vanished from sight. Everyone looked around. The one who found Naruto was the ninja who fought him, and he ended up getting slugged right in the face. He tumbled a few feet before Naruto crouched on all fours as he ran at the fallen ninja, snarling with every step. The demon brother's shun shined in front of the ninja, claws and chain out, ready to skewer the blonde. Contract be damned. Naruto leapt at the demon brothers with his claws outstretched. He slashed at the chain. The brothers smirked until his nails slashed right through the chain, and were heading for their throats. Sqlch. The ninja was terrified as he saw the two clawed hands slice right through the back of his comrades' throats, spraying blood all over the place. Naruto shoved his hands right through the demon brothers' necks as their heads were severed from his shoulders. Naruto was about to charge forwards when he was tackled to the ground by Kakashi, who pulled out a piece of paper with a complex seal on it and slapped it on Naruto's head. Naruto immediately began to calm down as he slumped to the ground. Kakashi got up to see that Zabuza and the other ninja vanished from sight. He sighed knowing that they would be back. He turned around to see that Sakura and Sasuke were staring at Naruto in fright. He looked to the knocked-out blonde to see that his genjutsu had dissipated. Shit, he must have overloaded the genjutsu with the Kyuubi's chakra dam. Kakashi looked towards Sasuke and Sakura. I know you two want answers, but I don't think that now is the best time. Help me carry Naruto to Tazuna's house. The two complied and shared one last look at the blonde. What the hell, I have never seen such severe scars. Those scars, so oh my god, you're telling me damn. Sasuke picked up Naruto as Sakura found Tazuna hiding in the bushes. They set off towards Tazuna, questions on their mind. A few hours later with Kushina. Kushina was waiting at an inn that she had rented out to set up a rendezvous point with Zabuza. She hoped that Zabuza could take care of Kakashi. As long as she got her son back, she didn't care. She just wanted to hold him in her arms. She just wanted to tell him how much she loved him. Kushina looked at the pictures she had in front of her. One was of her husband, Namikaze Minato. She sneered in disgust as she looked at the man for what he did to their son. The other was of her son, the one who hated her. Oh, how they looked so much alike. Naruto was practically a carbon copy of his father. Those blue eyes, that spiky blonde hair, even their facial features were the same. Except for those whisker marks. Kushina chuckled to herself as she traced the whisker marks on her son's face. She suddenly began to feel butterflies in her stomach as she looked at her son, that cute face, those beautiful blue eyes that were like a hypnotic pool. She shook her head of those thoughts. What am I thinking? He is my son. I can't have thoughts like that. She decided to label her thoughts as observations. After all, she couldn't actually fall in love with her son, could she? Yes, she loved him a bit more than most mothers should, but she wasn't in love with him, right? Kushina kept stroking her son's whisker marks when she heard someone knock on the door. She turned towards the door and got a small dagger ready. The person who entered was a young woman with blonde hair. She had a nice figure. She was wearing a standard business suit. She walked into the room and sat in front of Kushina. Namikaze Kushina, I am the head secretary of Gato Shipping. My boss wishes to offer you a proposition. Kushina edged her hand closer to her dagger as she cautiously glared at the woman. What kind of proposition, may I ask? The woman sighed before answering. Gato is willing to offer to capture Uzumaki Naruto. Kushina raised an eyebrow at that. Oh really, and what does that stuck-up pig want in return? The woman cringed at the harsh tone in her voice but straightened herself to continue. Nothing, but he is asking you to withdraw your contract with Zabuza. Kushina narrowed her eyes. Really, and what would happen should I not? The woman sighed as she answered. He says unless you withdraw the contract with Zabuza, he will not be held accountable to what happens to your son. Kushina clutched her dagger tightly. Oh really? At the woman's nod, Kushina closed her eyes. She then snapped them open as she disappeared from sight. The woman went wide-eyed as she felt a prick against her face and a wet substance go down her face. She touched her cheek to find that it was wet. She looked at her hand to find it was bloody. She began to panic until she felt something cold against her neck. She looked down to find a dagger ready to slit her throat. She turned her head to look into the eyes of Kushina. Now listen here, bitch, and listen well. I will accept Gato's proposal to capture Uzumaki Naruto, but let me tell you one thing that you will pass on to your master. She pushed the dagger closer to the woman's flesh to make her point. If there is even a scratch on my son's head because of your master, I will torture him until he begs for death, and when I finally give it to him, I will make his death as slow and painful as possible. Now get out of my sight. She threw the woman out the door as she began to run. Kushina walked back to her chair and looked back at the picture of her son, the same feeling as before welling up inside her. Soon, my son, soon. She took the picture and clutched it to her chest. Tsunami was standing at the stove cooking dinner, all the while looking back at the door, praying Tazuna would come home. Her father had left over a week ago to get help from a nearby shinobi village. But she heard rumors that Gato's thugs were not the only issue he would have to face. She heard that Gato had hired shinobi. She had heard how expensive shinobi missions were, and knew that even with all the money everybody had managed to scrounge up to purchase a mission, with enemy shinobi as a variable, she doubted they would help them. Knock knock. Tsunami turned to the door as she heard somebody knocking. She ran to the door hoping it was her father, but before she could open the door it was kicked open. HHH. Tsunami was about to grab a knife when her eyes landed on who was in the doorway. A tall white-haired man that was panting from exhaustion, a pink-haired girl, a black-haired boy with an incredibly odd hairdo, and a blonde-haired child who was scarred worse than anyone she had ever seen before. Tsunami looked further back to see her father pushing past the shinobi. Sorry, but this kid needs to get inside fast so they can work on him. The shinobi quickly headed over to the couch and lay down on the couch as the white-haired man began to perform hand seals. Tsunami looked at her father. Tusan, what is going on? Tazuna sighed as he grasped Tsunami's shoulder. Come in the kitchen, I will explain it there. He guided Tsunami to the kitchen while the shinobi worked on Naruto. Team 7 POV. Kakashi finished his hand seals and a green glow came to his hands. He quickly pressed his hands to Naruto's chest and slowly began to shift them around. Sakura was about to speak, only for Sasuke to grab her arm and shake his head, indicating that it was a bad idea. Sakura reluctantly agreed and stepped back as Kakashi went about doing whatever it was he was doing. Kakashi began to sweat as he kept charging chakra into Naruto's coils. Damn, how much chakra did Naruto use in this damn genjutsu? He watched as parts of Naruto's body began to shimmer as his scars were hidden away by the genjutsu. Finally, after 12 minutes, Naruto was completely covered in his genjutsu. Sai. Kakashi slumped back and panted as he reached for some chakra replenishing pills. Sasuke looked between Naruto and Kakashi before he finally spoke up. Kakashi, what the hell is going on? Kakashi sighed as he sat up. Naruto has his secrets, Sasuke, just as you have your own. If Naruto wants to tell you, he can. Sasuke growled and stormed out of the house, Sakura following close behind. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Tsunami stared at her father in shock. Why you mean that boy was beaten by oh my Kami-sama? Tsunami sat back and looked at the table. How could people be so cruel as to beat a child? Not even Gato has gone that far yet. Tazuna sighed. I know how you feel, Tsunami. Believe me, after hearing what that one kid went through I was shocked. Tsunami looked at her father. If his life was that bad, then why did he remain in the village? Tazuna sighed as he sat down. I wonder that myself, Tsunami, I truly do. Later, Naruto groggily opened his eyes and rubbed the sediment that had gathered on his eyelids. He threw his legs over the edge of the couch he was laying on. Cracking his neck, he groaned, Damn, what hit me? Hello. Naruto snapped his head up and saw a beautiful young woman in front of him. She had on civilian clothes and had beautiful black hair. She was carrying a tray with tea and steaming bread. My name is Tsunami. Your name is Naruto, right? Naruto nodded his head. Yes, how do you know me? Tsunami smiled gently as she set the tray in front of Naruto and walked around the table as she sat to his side. My father is your client, thank you for keeping him safe. If he had died, I don't know how we could have survived. Naruto sighed as he grabbed a biscuit. I don't know what to say, as I have never, nor will I ever be in that position. He bit into the biscuit and chewed, while Tsunami poured a cup of tea. So Tsunami sighed and placed the teapot down. Naruto, my father told me how you were treated in Konoha. I was just wondering, is it true? Naruto glanced at Tsunami and looked down. The beatings, the glares, the mobs, was it all true? Naruto sighed as he placed the half-eaten biscuit down. Yes, it is. He stood up and walked to the door. I will go patrol the area. I will be back later. Naruto closed the door behind him, while Tsunami sighed as she looked at the floor. With Kushina. Kushina sighed in annoyance as she paced, mumbling to herself, Where is he? He should have been here by now. She growled as she sat down. He had better have a good excuse for making me wait this long. Kushina reached to grab a cup of tea when she heard knocking on the door of the inn. Enter. The door opened to reveal Zabuza, who was worse for wear, with Haku following close behind. Namikaze-sama, we are here to report. Kushina looked at them. Well then, report. Zabuza sighed as he sat down. Haku stood at his side as he looked at Kushina. Zabuza leaned forward. Alright, I will start from the beginning. You told us to capture and retrieve one Uzumaki Naruto, a blonde-haired blue-eyed genin who had whisker marks on his face, and to kill anybody that got in our way. Gozu Amezu had managed to disable him with a special drug that knocked him out, but Sharingan no Kakashi, an A-rank jonin in the bingo book, managed to subdue the two of them. After they left, they came and reported to me on what had occurred with the group. Kushina nodded. Yes, go on. Zabuza sighed. After we discussed a plan where my apprentice Haku, he indicated to the one standing at his side, to subdue the target while Mezu, Gozu, and myself would keep the others busy. However, he gave Kushina a stern look. Kushina raised an eyebrow. However? Zabuza stood up. However, you failed to mention that our target was a Jinchuriki. Kushina looked at Zabuza, then grabbed a cup of tea she had set aside. Yes, but what does that have to do with anything? Zabuza released a shitload of killing intent as he shouted. That brat, which you said was a brand new genin, killed 2 B-rank Chunin ninjas in a single strike. If I had known he was a Jinchuriki, I would have. Kushina stood up and glared at him. You would have what? Killed him, maimed him, finished him off quickly? Do not forget, Zabuza, that I hired you to capture him alive. If he is killed, I will make sure you pay for it. Haku stepped between Kushina and Zabuza. How dare you threaten Zabuza-sama, you Xing? Haku silenced himself as Kushina suddenly pulled out a katana and placed it at Haku's throat. Shut your mouth, brat, this is between me and your master. She removed the sword from Haku's throat and placed it in her sheath. Now she looked at Zabuza. I will make this clear. I want him caught alive. If it becomes necessary to cripple him, then do so without making it a risk to his life. Just get him to me alive, and not at risk of death. Zabuza was about to speak. If you can accomplish this, I will give you twice what we agreed on. Zabuza's eyes widened. She was basically offering him a daimyo's fortune, the entire bank account of the Namikaze clan. Why do you want this brat so badly? Kushina turned away and walked towards the other room, but stopped and looked at Zabuza. What more reason do I need than to hold my baby in my arms? She quickly slinked into the other room, leaving a shocked Zabuza. That Jinchuriki brat is her son. No wonder she is willing to pay as much as she is offering. Zabuza turned away as a grin traced his features. Oh well, doesn't matter to me, so long as I get paid. He walked out the door with Haku close behind. At Tazuna's place 2 days later. Team 7, Tazuna, Tsunami, and a young boy, Tsunami's son, Inari, sat at the table as they ate a well-cooked meal. Naruto ate the food slowly, as he had injured his hand a bit earlier that day. He had spent the last 2 days training in taijutsu, as well as chakra control. Inari looked at the shinobi, and slammed his fist into the table. I can't stand you people, you walk around all happy and carefree. Gato is just going to kill you, so why do you try so hard? Naruto glanced at Inari before he looked back at his food. I try because I don't want to end up a whiny little brat like you who can't even stand up for himself. Inari shouted, shut up, you have no idea what it is like to suffer. Clang! Everybody turned to see Tsunami drop her utensils and walk towards Inari. Inari, come with me now. Inari steadily stood up, as the look in his mother's eyes was terrifying. He followed her into the other room, where she closed the door, then smacked him across the face. Inari stood still as he felt the stinging pain run through his face. He looked at his mother. Keika-chan, what? Tsunami snapped at Inari. I can't believe how ungrateful you are, how narrow-minded you are thinking. I know Kaiser did not raise you to be like this. Those shinobi are risking their lives to help us, and you are spitting in their faces. They didn't have to help us, they could have gone right back to their village as soon as they found out that we had lied to them. If it wasn't for them, especially that boy, who you so carelessly insulted, your grandfather would be dead, and likely, either you, or I would follow soon. Inari trembled. But Ka-chan, it's true, Gato will kill them. Look what happened to Tusan because he opposed Gato. Tsunami shouted. So what you are saying is that we should let Gato trample all over us, degrade us, lower our morale even further. Is that what you are saying? She looked at Inari with disappointment. Kaiser would be ashamed of you. She turned and walked back into the kitchen, leaving Inari to his thoughts. Next day. Team 7 walked towards the bridge, with Tazuna following close behind. Naruto kept darting his eyes around. Those two were after me. What do they want? Naruto had become incredibly paranoid in the last few days. First, 2 Kiri missing Nin attacked him with full intentions of capturing him, and then they were joined by 2 more ninja that were infinitely better than he was. The only reason they had managed to escape was because he used Kyuubi's chakra, but he was pretty sure they would be back and soon. They were about halfway across the unfinished bridge when they were suddenly surrounded by an incredibly thick mist. Kukuka, looks like it's my lucky day. Everyone turned around to see Zabuza and his accomplice appear in a swirl of water. Both of my targets are here, green as a grasshopper's genin, and a drunken old man. Zabuza swung his sword out, easiest payday of my life. He charged forward with his accomplice following behind. Kakashi pulled out a kunai, and used it to block the sword only for the blade to be cleaved in half as Kakashi jumped back in time to avoid being sliced in half. The other ninja attacked Naruto, who quickly pedaled back as Haku began to engage him in a taijutsu battle. Sasuke and Sakura were about to assist him, but were stopped as a wall of ice suddenly appeared and surrounded Naruto and Haku. Haku turned towards Naruto and removed his mask. Now time to finish this. He charged at Naruto and smashed his fist into the blonde's face, making him spin into the wall of ice. As Naruto fell down, Haku grabbed him by his throat and smashed him back into the wall. The ice wielder pulled out a syringe. This elixir will render you unconscious. Then upon your awakening, you will find you will not be able to move your arms and legs. It is my most prized creation. Haku squeezed on the syringe for good measure, showing the liquid ooze out of the tip. Naruto groggily opened his eyes as he saw the syringe coming towards him. No, I can't, I won't. Drip. Naruto's eyes fully opened where he found himself inside a sewer drip. He stood up and looked around. This way boy jumped at the sound of the dark voice. But some underlying feeling made his feet move in the direction he heard the voice. That's it, closer, come to me, Naruto continued until he was standing in front of a steel wall. Naruto slowly reached for the door handle and pushed it open, revealing a sight that was both astonishing and terrifying. In front of him was a massive set of iron bars with a piece of paper holding it completely shut. The bars looked like they had been carved out of the darkest of metals. The thing that terrified him was beyond the bars. A massive crimson fox with 9 long tails behind it was grinning at Naruto as its blood-red eyes set their gaze upon him. It's about damn time you got here, brat. Kyuubi laid down and began to speak. Now, onto business. You are currently being captured, and soon to be crippled for life by an enemy. I am not certain if I will be able to remove the toxins, so I believe it will be best if you use my power now. Kyuubi shoved his yuki through the cage bars and watched as it wrapped itself around the blonde. Outside, Haku was about to place the syringe in Naruto's neck only to cough up blood as Naruto suddenly shot his arm out, claws extended, and drove it into Haku's sternum. Haku stumbled back as he dropped the syringe and looked up as the same crimson chakra began to wrap itself around Naruto, only now, it began to take a physical-like form. It grew 2 large pointed ears on the top of its head, and a long bubbling tail at the end. It also formed giant demonic claw shapes at the end of each limb. Naruto's eyes shot open, revealing them to be red and slitted as he swung his head back and let loose a guttural roar, "Raggh." He shot his arm at Haku, sending a long limb of crimson chakra that wrapped itself around the effeminate male. Naruto snarled as he began to squeeze the life out of Haku's body. The boy coughed up blood as he felt his already broken ribs crush into his lungs and heart. He took one last look at Naruto before he felt as if his body was being ground into mush as his insides shot out between Naruto's ethereal hand. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Zabuza were staring down Gato and his thugs, who had explained that he never had any intention of paying Zabuza before he orders his thugs to attack. Kakashi and Zabuza are about to charge and attack when they feel a massive killing intent as they hear the noticeable sound of cracking. They turn around to see the giant wall of ice Haku had constructed begin to falter as cracks were stretching across its surface. The poundings on the other side of the ice wall stopped for a moment before a massive roar was let loose as the ice was blown all over the place. Zabuza barely had any time to dodge, and ended up with ice shrapnel getting lodged in different parts of his body. Out of the fog created by the explosion of ice, a figure walked through, radiating malice the likes none of them had ever seen. Kakashi's eyes widened as he saw Naruto walk out being covered by a one-tailed fox cloak. He looked across the bridge with a look reminiscent of a predator searching for his prey. Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna were practically trembling at the feel of the killing intent as Naruto's gaze passed over them. Finally, Naruto's gaze stopped on Gato and his thugs and he let loose a howl of bloodlust and fury before he crouched on all fours and charged at the army of thugs. Gato pedaled back and shouted, "Kill him!" The thugs ran forward, thinking that their numbers would be able to take the blonde down. It was the last mistake they ever made. Naruto drove his clawed hand through the throat of one thug, while he used his chakra tail to smash another thug into the ground. He tore his clawed hand out of the thug's throat, and buried his claws into the skull of another thug, as he swung him around like a bat as he smashed the lone thug into his comrades. Gato watched at the end of the bridge as his thugs were being maimed and mutilated by the demonic blood-crazed genin. In a last-ditch effort he began to beg, "Please, don't hurt me, have mercy. I will give you anything. Money, women, anything." Naruto had snapped the neck of another thug as he stalked towards Gato, hunched over like a predator ready to pounce. He snarled out in a deep guttural voice, "Die!" He thrust his arm towards Gato, "Gato squlch." Naruto had buried his claws in Gato's throat as he kicked the man in the chest, sending his body spinning towards the water as the river of blood spurted from the hole in his throat. Naruto turned around and surveyed what he had done. The entire end of the bridge was covered in pools of blood and body parts. It would be impossible to distinguish if a body part went to one person or another. As the Kyuubi cloak fell, Naruto's eyes began to droop as he fell to his knees. Just before he fell face first in a pool of blood that was not his, Kakashi caught him and hoisted him over his shoulder. Sighing as he looked at the blonde, "This is going to be a lot of paperwork." It has been 3 days since the incident on the bridge, 3 days since Zabuza and his Hayatan-wielding servant tried to kidnap Naruto, 3 days since Naruto had brutally slaughtered an army of thugs, 3 days since Naruto had entered a coma, and still had not woken up. The team had taken turns standing by his bedside as Tazuna finished the bridge. Kakashi took the mornings, Sasuke the afternoon, and Sakura took night shift. Sometimes even Tsunami would take care of the blonde, waiting for him to wake up. Even Inari pitched in. The villagers had often come by the house, hoping to thank Naruto, who was now being referred to as the hero of Nami no Kuni. A few brought gifts and even asked Kakashi if Naruto would be interested in marrying some of their daughters. Currently, Kakashi was trying to keep an extremely persistent woman out of the house. For the last time, lady, Naruto is not awake and needs his rest. The woman, who was incredibly beautiful, frowned. "Oh please, the hero of Wave defeated Gato in less than a minute. How could somebody that powerful need rest?" She grinned. "Besides, why would he want to rest when I am offering him this body?" She slides her hands across her form, accentuating her impressive bust and curves. Kakashi frowned outwardly but inwardly was cursing Naruto for attracting such a sexy woman. "For Kami's sake, lady, he is only 12, and you are in your 20s. The woman frowned and crossed her arms underneath her. "Correct me if I am wrong, but since he is a shinobi, isn't he considered an adult?" Kakashi sighed as he massaged his temples. "Yes, that is correct." The woman hen placed her hands on her hips. "So, whether I am 10 or so years older than him or not, since he is technically an adult, it is not an issue." Kakashi opened his mouth to try and get her to leave. "Kakashi-sensei." But he turned around as Sakura came bolting out of the house. "It's Naruto, he is awake." Kakashi was about to head into the house, when the women plowed past him and up the stairs. He growled in annoyance as he and Akura walked up the stairs. The woman had managed to get to Naruto's room and was now trying several advances on him. "So Naruto-kun, how about later you and me go to my house and have some fun? After all, you still haven't been properly rewarded for saving us, and I doubt Tsunami will be able to please you not like I could." She shrugged her shoulders, allowing her dress to fall a bit. Naruto was blushing, all the while edging away from the woman. Kakashi and Sakura walked in to see the woman stripping down, HEY. But the woman stopped and turned towards the two. "He just woke up, give him some space, damn it." Kakashi was seriously getting aggravated with this woman. Sure, several women were offering their hands in marriage to Naruto, or offering their daughters, but at least the girls were around his age range, maybe 2 or 3 years older, not in their late 20s. The woman frowned and stood up. Fine, she walked towards the door, but not before turning towards Naruto and waving. "Talk to you later, Naruto-kun," she said with a sultry grin as she headed downstairs. Naruto sighed as he looked at Kakashi. "So, when do we leave?" Kakashi sighed and pulled out his book. "Well, now that you are awake, we can leave in a couple hours. So start packing." Kakashi left the room as Naruto and Sakura began to pack their stuff. Nobody noticed the shadowed figure who watched the entire exchange. Couple hours later, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi stood at the front of the bridge as Tazuna got ready to clip the red ribbon across the bridge. They had been asked to stay long enough to see the naming of the bridge. Out of courtesy, they chose to stay. Tazuna cleared his throat. "I am happy to announce that this bridge, which without the help of these fine shinobi, would not have been built. So, in honor of their bravery, courage, and sacrifice, I hereby open this bridge in honor of our greatest hero, the Great Naruto Bridge." He cut the rope as a plaque was unveiled, showing the name of the bridge. Cheers erupted from the crowd, while girls were screaming in joy and making cat calls towards Naruto. Naruto smiled softly as they turned and left towards Konoha. Meanwhile, in the trees, a shinobi with a slashed forehead protector shined away after it finished watching the proceedings. 3 days later, Team 7 arrived back in Konoha and delivered their report to the Sandaime, who was none too pleased with what happened. Not only did the client lie, but somebody had been after Naruto. The list of those who would want Naruto captured alive was pretty short, but large enough that it would be too costing of village resources to send somebody to find the culprits. After the full report was delivered, Sarutobi dismissed Team 7 just as the team was about to leave. Naruto spoke up, "Actually, Sandame-sama, I have to speak with you on a certain matter." The tone in Naruto's voice left no room for argument. Hiruzen sighed and sent the rest of Team 7 off, leaving only him and Naruto in the office. It was quiet for a few minutes before Naruto spoke up. "I am sure you know why I stayed behind." He walked up to the desk and leaned forward. "I may have only been 6 when we made our deal, Sandame-sama, but I will never forget it." He stood up and walked back. "You broke your word, and intentionally set me up with a mission with that woman. When you swore you would keep her away from me." Hiruzen sighed. "Naruto, please understand that." Naruto smashed his fist into Hiruzen's desk, sending a few cracks through it. "Understand what? That you broke your word to me? That you set me up to be near that whore? That you once again have betrayed my trust? Answer me, Sarutobi?" Naruto spoke with such hatred as he shouted at the one whom looked at him like a grandson. Hiruzen lowered his head and sat back, having nothing to counter Naruto's statements. Naruto stood back up before he turned around. "I expect the jutsus we agreed on be brought to my apartment in a week," and walked out of the office. Hiruzen placed his face in his palms, letting a few tears fall from his eyes. Elsewhere, Kushina was sitting back in her chair as the man in front of her delivered his report. His slashed headband glowing in the light. "Is that all, Rokusho Aoi?" The now named Aoi nodded his head. "Yes, Kushina-san, that is everything that I was able to gather while viewing Team 7. Kushina nodded her head. "Very good." She reached into a side pouch on the chair and pulled out a folder. "Give this to the leader of Amigekure, and he will make sure you are well cared for." Aoi bowed, revealing the / Konoha symbol on his headband. "Thank you very much, Kushina-san." He turned and walked out the door, leaving Kushina to think on what Aoi had told her. "Oh my Sochi, you are so much stronger than I ever thought possible. Truly you surpassed every expectation." She smiled as she thought of how Aoi described Naruto's battle with Gato and his thugs. "Serves the man right for threatening my Sochi. It is a shame though that Zabuza did not complete his end of the bargain." She scowled as she thought of the woman who dared to try and seduce her Sochi. "That bitch. If I ever get my hands on her I will kill her. How dare she try to take my Sochi?" She sighed and leaned back in her chair. "Zabuza failed to capture my Sochi, and A-rank Nukenin failed to capture him, a genin. Who else could I turn to capture him?" "Hello, Kushina." Kushina shot up out of her chair and turned around only to shiver in fright at who was in front of her. Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin. She stepped back and grabbed her katana. "What do you want, Orochimaru?" The snake Sannin chuckled as he walked towards her. Now, Kushina, is that any way to treat the man who saved your life when your village was destroyed?" Kushina sneered in disgust. "You were the one who gave IWA the information that destroyed my home and my family. I owe you nothing." Orochimaru sighed and shrugged his shoulders. "Fair enough, but I am not here to talk about the past. I am here to make you a deal." Kushina narrowed her eyes. "What kind of deal?" Orochimaru sat down in a chair. "I am willing to give you the one thing you desire more than anything in life, your Sochi." Kushina's eyes widened in shock. How did Orochimaru know? Orochimaru smirked as he saw the look on Kushina's face. "I would bring him to you alive and well. I only ask for a few things in return." Kushina swallowed and looked at the Sannin. "What kind of things?" Orochimaru smiled darkly as he stood up. "The village has changed quite a bit since I betrayed it. The defense are different, the protocol is revised, even some of the shinobi have been made aware of some of their glaring weakness. I am sure you know where I am going with this." Kushina snarled at Orochimaru. "You'll want me to give away village secrets to you? You have got to be out of your... Did I mention that I would also be willing to bring your son to you, willing to accept you at last?" Kushina stared at the snake Sannin, not believing what he said. "Why, you're lying." Orochimaru smiled darkly as he walked towards her. "Kushina, how do you think I have managed to gain such great power, being able to recruit armies, and no need to worry about being betrayed?" With no answer from Kushina, he continued, "I created a special jutsu that makes those who join my armies loyal to me. I can create the same sea for you if you like." He traced her face with his finger. "Just imagine it, being able to hold your son, without having him assault you with vile words, being able to feel him embrace you with love, instead of disdain, to have the family you always wanted at last." Kushina stood there, processing everything Orochimaru had said. It was just too good to be true, but there was no lie in the Sannin's eyes. He could really give her back her baby and more. But was it really worth it? To betray the village that had been a second home to her after her own was destroyed? Orochimaru saw the conflict in her eyes. "You do not have to decide this moment. Think on it, and I shall return for your answer in a week." He stepped back as he began to melt into the ground. Until then, farewell Namikaze Kushina. Kushina fell back onto the sofa, a single question running through her mind: what should I do? 1 week later. Naruto sat in his apartment, reading a book, awaiting for the Hokage's Anbu to deliver the scroll containing jutsu. He knew he had basically insulted the man who viewed him as a grandson, but the old fool should have thought of that before he made the mistake of trying to set him up on a mission with Kushina. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. It was the very contract that Sarutobi was now paying for breaking. I, Hiruzen Sarutobi, hereby swear on my oath as a Hokage to do whatever is within my power to keep Uzumaki Naruto as far away from Namikaze Kushina as possible. If I fail to uphold this oath, whether it be by accident or by my own will, Uzumaki Naruto will receive the following jutsus from the Konoha Library. Bunshin Bakuhatsutiki no Jutsu, Explosive Clone Jutsu. Futon Tiashi, Wind Release, Air Pressure. Futon Kaze Kudu, Wind Release, Wind Vortex. Futon Shippushingai, Wind Release, Hurricane Shock. Futon Hidofuki no Shitsunen, Wind Release, Gust of Oblivion. All of these are jutsu that have only ever been taught to Hokages, and are the only Futon and Bunshin jutsu in the entire elemental nations that officially belongs to Konohagakure no Sato. All other jutsu were acquired from the other great nations. Knock knock. Naruto was broken from reading the rest of the contract as there was knocking at the door. He stood up and walked towards the door. As he opened it, there was an Anbu holding out a scroll, delivery from Sandaime-sama. Naruto took the scroll and nodded, my thanks to the Sandaime, and closed the door. He then unrolled the scroll. Now which jutsu shall I do first? He scrolled through the jutsu and their description before he grinned as he made a decision. Bunshin Bakuhatsutiki it is. Elsewhere. Kushina sat on the sofa, staring at the table in front of her. This week had felt more like an eternity, as she thought of Orochimaru's offer. She was being offered a treasure more valuable to her than the greatest gem, more precious than any jutsu or family secret. In return, she had to betray the very place she thought of as a second home. Kushina, she slowly turned around to see Orochimaru standing before her. Have you made your decision at last? Kushina lowered her head and nodded. Yes, I have. She looked up at Orochimaru as she handed him a folder. In this folder is every secret I know of Konoha. I don't care what happens to this village, or its inhabitants. Kill them, torture them, use them in your experiments. I don't care, just bring me my baby, please. Orochimaru took the folder and smiled, of course, Kushina, and faded back into the wall. Kushina looked back at the table, which was covered in every possible picture she could acquire of her Sochi. She grabbed the one that showed her holding him in his arms when he was an infant, and the other was him hugging Irika as he finally graduated. She could not stand Irika. He had the one thing she wanted more than anything. Her baby's love, his affection, the love a child would give to a parent he loved, that should be hers. She smiled as she started cutting up the picture of him and Irika, then cut up a picture of her and Minato when the two of them started dating. She glued the pieces together and smiled. The creation was a picture of her and Naruto in a loving embrace. She touched the whisker marks in the picture and clutched it closely to her chest. Soon, my precious babe, soon you and mommy will be together at last. It had been 2 weeks since the wave mission, 2 weeks since Naruto had been given the scroll by the Sandaime, and 2 weeks since he had tried to learn the first Futon Jutsu. And he still could not get past step 1. He had managed to learn the Bunshin Bakuhatsutiki on the first day, albeit the clones were far more explosive than what was explained. He had then gotten to work on what he assumed was the easiest jutsu. Futon Hitofuki no Shintenshin. It was a shitload harder than he originally thought, and a shitload more painful. The jutsu basically required that he expand his lungs, allowing him to suck in more air, and then fire it out with a pressurized shell of chakra. He already has gone to the hospital to get his ribs realigned and his lungs pumped out, as it was a quarter filled with his own blood. He had gone at least 7 times, and would likely be going an 8th time if he did not figure out where he was going wrong. Naruto sighed and laid back. Damn, what the fuck am I doing wrong? I have channeled wind-natured chakra through my lungs, coated them with a pressurized shell of chakra. I have done everything it said in the description, so why the fuck can't I do it? Naruto shouted as he grabbed the scroll and began to read, trying to find if he had missed anything. GRRN, he looked towards his stomach and sighed. Performing a single-hand seal, he created a dozen clones. Go get me something to eat. The clones saluted as they ran off towards the village. Half an hour later, Naruto was standing with his legs spread out. Alright, inhale as the wind chakra is pulled into the lungs, coat the chakra with a pressurized shell and Naruto suddenly stopped as things started to flash across his eyes. He saw Ichiraku's ramen and had a conversation with Im before he left after he received his order of miso and shrimp ramen. He was halfway past the clan district when he was tackled to the ground by a very pissed-off Inuzuka Kiba, and then everything stopped. Naruto stood there for a few moments and had only one thought: what the fuck just happened? He looked up in the sky and saw that the sun was beginning to set. Damn well, I guess I can ask Kakashi-sensei tomorrow. He turned around and sighed. I wish there was an easier way for me to do this damn jutsu, but it's not like I can create 100 Kage Bunshin and have them go over every chakra control exercise in the book and have it transferred to me. He suddenly stopped the flashes, the cloud of smoke. Naruto slapped himself in the face as he grumbled, I am such an idiot. Next day, Naruto stood in the training grounds, panting in exhaustion as he fell to his knees. His theory was correct. Whatever chakra exercises the aged Bunshin learned was transferred to him. He had created 100 Kage Bunshin the night before and had them go over the tree climbing exercise. By the end of the night, he was so exhausted from recreating Kage Bunshin that he doubted he would be able to do anything in training. But he took in a deep breath and crossed his fingers. This was the moment of truth, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In an instant, a cloud of smoke appeared in front of Naruto, and inside it a single Kage Bunshin. Just the amount Naruto wanted. He grinned as he thought to himself, and the Hyugas say you can't change. 2 weeks later, Naruto was sitting on the edge of the bridge as he and his team awaited Kakashi's arrival. Sasuke and Sakura were standing off to the side. Sakura was looking at Naruto with worry, and Sasuke was glaring at Naruto's back. The last Uchiha sneered in disgust as he thought, that worthless bastard, he still ahs his mother, and he treats her as if she is worth less than shit. He uncrossed his arms and walked over to Naruto. I am going to get answers from him, whether Kakashi-sensei approves or not. Naruto looked at the river flowing beneath him as he flipped a kunai in the air and caught it by the hilt before it went towards the river below him. He had already lost 3 kunai, but he was definitely improving on his reaction time. Suddenly he was yanked off of the bridge edge and turned around, forced to look at a pissed-off Uchiha. Dobe, you have got a shitload of questions to answer, and you will answer them. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Sasuke. What would you possibly want to know from me? Sasuke snarled as he tightened the grip he had on the front of Naruto's shirt. What the hell if your problem? Your own mother was on her hands and knees crack. Sasuke had to let go as Naruto punched him square in the face, breaking his nose. Naruto snarled and grabbed the front of Sasuke's shirt. Mention that whore around me one more time, I dare you. Naruto adjusted his grip so it was around Sasuke's throat. Sakura ran over and grabbed Naruto's wrist. Naruto, please stop, he didn't mean OPH. She was shoved out of the way and fell to the ground as Naruto continued strangling Sasuke. Naruto continued squeezing Sasuke's throat until the Uchiha's eyes began to roll to the back of his head. He then shoved Sasuke to the ground and whispered in his ear, if you ever touch me again, then I will make sure that the Uchiha clan dies with you. Sasuke watched as Naruto walked away, and hissed underneath his breath, this isn't over Uzumaki, not by a long shot. Late that night, Naruto was walking home as he read a piece of paper. Kakashi had nominated him and his teammates for the Chunin exams. He had a week to make a final decision as to whether or not he was going to take part in them. Personally, he was definitely going to take part in the exams. The real question, however, was whether or not his teammates were, and what would happen if they did. Sure, there was the possibility that if he decided not to take part, they could just put in a replacement teammate so his team could take the exams, but what if they were disqualified because he didn't want to go? So many questions, with so many possibilities, it was mind-numbing. Naruto turned a corner and was about to head to his apartment. Hello, Naruto-kun, when he heard a dark voice behind him. Before, all he saw was black. Time skipped 2 days. Naruto's eyes fluttered open as he looked at the white ceiling above him, covered in cracks and jagged marks. He was in his apartment, but how the hell did he get there? The last thing he remembered was that he was walking down the street towards his home, and then nothing. Pushing himself up, he shook his head as he wiped the sleep from his eyes. He stood up and headed to the bathroom, hoping to relieve himself before he headed off to team meetings. He walked up to the toilet and looked up, holy shit, before he jumped back, tearing the door off of its hinges. He stood back up and walked back over to the toilet, which had a mirror above it, showing his face, his real face. Years wearing that genjutsu had made Naruto forget what his actual face looked like, but then again, who would want to see their face adorned with scars? He stepped back and looked at his body. The genjutsu had fallen. But how? Unless his chakra control had been shot to absolute hell, There was no way his genjutsu should have fallen. He focused his chakra and tried to get the genjutsu up only for it to fail over and over again. Shit, I can't head to team training without my genjutsu, not with all these scars. He walked into his room and looked through his closet. Damn, I never thought I would have to use this. He pulled out a long cloak that would easily cover his entire body. He smirked and threw it over himself, covering his body, including the 3 black swirl marks surrounding a single kanji, the kanji for servant. Elsewhere, Kushina looked at Orochimaru, who was standing before her. Did you apply the seal? Orochimaru smirked at Kushina. Of course I did, why would I not do such? After all, we did have a deal. I may be an S-rank missing nin, but I do keep my promises. Kushina sighed, then looked up at Orochimaru with fierce determination. Do it. He smiled as he bared his teeth, his fangs elongating as a red venom dripped from the tips. As you wish, Kushina-chan. His head shot forward, and his fangs buried themselves into Kushina's neck. Ag! She screamed in pain as Orochimaru bit into her neck, allowing the crimson venom to flow through her veins. She felt as if her body was on fire as Orochimaru ripped his fangs out of her neck. The snake Sannin chuckled as he turned away. Our deal is completed. He phased through the walls as Kushina fell to her knees screaming in pain. She clutched her shoulder as she dug her nails into her flesh. Her eyes snapped open as she began to see images before her. Flashback. Naruto was sitting on his knees as he scrubbed the floor of a large hallway. The hall was so big, no less than 10 maids would ever be able to properly clean it. But Naruto was being forced to clean every inch of the hallway by his own mother. Naruto had a look of utter defeat on his face, as if he had nothing to live for. Naruto, get your ass in here now. Naruto flinched as he heard his mother's voice. I said now. Naruto quickly ran over to the direction of his mother's voice, fearing what would happen if he didn't. As he entered the room, he saw his mother standing before him, a look of anger on her face. He lowered his head as he shivered in fear. Why yes, Keikaze-sama? Kushina grabbed Naruto by his hair and hoisted him up, eliciting a yelp of pain from him. Do you see this room? She dropped Naruto and pointed at the room. I told you to clean this room until it was spotless today. So why the hell is it still dirty? Naruto whimpered as he shied away in fear. Keikaze-sama, why you told me to see clean the H hall W when you G got home? I didn't H have TT Tim me to F finish. Kushina sneered and backhanded Naruto. How dare you make such lousy excuses? She turned and left the room. No supper for you tonight. She slammed the door behind her as the 3-year-old was left in the room. End flashback. Kushina fell onto her side, tears streaming down her face as more and more memories passed across her eyes. I am so sorry, my Sochi, I wasn't in the right state of mind, please forgive me. Kushina's eyes scrunched shut as she was forced to view another memory. Flashback. Naruto was running towards the Namikaze compound, several bags of groceries in hand. His mother had sent him to the store to grab some food. It was a hassle, especially since he had to use his own money, and was always overcharged for goods. He entered the clan district and saw the Namikaze compound in the distance. He sighed in relief. Just a little bit further and OPH, he was tripped and fell over, dropping the groceries as he fell. He looked up to see the hateful eyes of several members of various clans. Hey, it's the demon! Get him! Naruto shot up and grabbed the bags as he tried to outrun the growing mob behind him. He saw the gates. He grabbed the gates and pulled on them to find they were locked. He panicked and began to yank on the gates as he shouted, Shit, shit, shit! He looked up at a window and saw his mother just standing there, watching as he tried to open the gates. He shouted as he grabbed the bars, Kasama. Please open the gates. Kushina merely grabbed a bottle of sake and guzzled it down, walking away from the window. Naruto screamed as the mob finally reached him, Kei-sama. End flashback. Kushina dug her nails so deeply into her flesh that if she were to pull back, she would tear her own skin off. She had often sent Naruto out to grab groceries, and she would sit at home, drinking away her sorrows. Her eyes snapped back open as the last memory came before her. The night she drove her son away. Flashback. Naruto was sitting in his room. Well, it was more like a cellar closet. The floors were hard, cold, and uncomfortable, and the only thing he had to keep himself warm was the clothes on his back, which were too small for him, and moth-eaten. He looked at the ceiling and cried, H happy B birthday T to me, H happy B birthday T to me. He curled his feet into himself as he sobbed. Slam! The door to his closet was thrown open and he was dragged out by his hair. He was thrown onto the ground as the air was knocked out of him. Standing above him, Kushina was stumbling over herself, the telltale smell of sake rolling off of her. Why, you demon! She kicked Naruto in the stomach as she grabbed a stake from the wall. How dare you sing when you killed my husband? She grabbed Naruto's hair and sneered, you filthy beast. She stabbed the stake into Naruto's chest, making the young blonde scream in agony. Kushina slapped him as she finished carving Naruto's chest up. I am ashamed to have birthed you. She stepped on his hand and began to apply even more pressure. The only reason you live here is so you can work off your redemption for killing my husband and child. Kushina spat in Naruto's face as she brought her foot back to kick him again. Be glad I have a kind enough heart to let you live under my roof. Just as Kushina was about to kick Naruto, he jumped out of the way and ran up the stairs. Before he plowed out the door, he turned around and glared at Kushina. Fine. You don't want me here? Well, good. Because I am never coming back to this hellhole. He slammed open the door and ran out of the house. The last thing Kushina saw before he ran away was the look on Naruto's face: betrayal, sadness, hatred for her. End flashback. Kushina fell to the ground completely as tears flowed freely, her fingers still buried into her own flesh. Naruto had been only 5 when he left, when she had lost the only remaining family she had left. Kushina sobbed as she curled into a ball. I am so sorry, my Sochi, I am so sorry. As Kushina continued to bawl and whimper on the floor, the bite mark from when Orochimaru bit her began to shift. It became 3 black swirl marks, surrounding the kanji for master. Naruto exited his apartment, covered in his black cloak. He looked around, hoping that nobody would see him leaving his apartment. Luckily for him, nobody was out yet, an advantage. He slipped out and ran down the streets towards the training ground, making certain to avoid the shops that were beginning to open. He finally reached the edge of the forest, where his team's training grounds were. He was halfway down the path when a sharp shot of pain coursed through his body. He lost his balance and tripped, skidding a couple feet as he clutched the origin of the pain coursing through his body. He clenched his teeth and began to dig his nails into the ground. Shit, what the fuck? As quickly as the pain came, it vanished. Naruto panted in relief as he stood up, checking himself over to see if there were any injuries, which he realized was a stupid idea, as his whole body is covered in injuries. He wrapped up the parts that were bleeding and headed off to the training ground. Underneath his cloak, the seal began to swirl as the kanji in the center glowed crimson. Later, Naruto arrived at the training ground, with Sasuke and Sakura already there. As he entered the clearing, the two of them noticed him enter the clearing, but due to his cloak, they did not recognize him. Sasuke snarled as he pulled out a kunai. Identify yourself, or so help me I'll. Oh, shut up, Sasuke, Naruto said as he sat against the tree. I am really not in the mood to deal with your shit this morning. Naruto laid back and adjusted his hood so that the wind could not blow it back. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened. Naruto? What the hell are you doing dressed like whoosh thwack? Sakura stopped as she felt a sudden rush of air pass by her head. She slowly turned around to see a kunai embedded halfway up the blade in the training post. Naruto grunted. Do you hear that? He spread his arms out and smirked. Silence, that is how I would like it to remain, until Kakashi-sensei gets here. He crossed his legs and laid back, closing his eyes as he slept. Sasuke and Sakura edged away from the tired blonde. Bothering him at the moment was not a good idea. Later, Sasuke and Sakura were sitting on the training posts, while Naruto was still sleeping. Sakura turned towards Sasuke. Ano, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke looked at Sakura. Yeah, what is it? Sakura looked over at Naruto. What do you think is wrong with him? Sasuke snorted in disgust as he spoke with venom dripping from his voice. He is a self-centered, conceited, unappreciative asshole who would hit his own mother. I mean, seriously, who the hell is he to assault his own mother like that? Sakura flinched back at Sasuke's tone. Sasuke-kun, while I don't agree with what Naruto did, maybe something happened between the two of them to make him hate her. Sasuke turned around and spat. If something did happen, it was because of him. No mother would ever hurt their own child. Sakura turned away and looked at Naruto. I hope so, Sasuke-kun, I really hope so. Naruto's thoughts. Naruto was walking through a sewer as if he was in a trance. His eyes were blank, and his movements constant. He looked around, as if he was searching for something. Naruto turned and looked in the direction he heard the feminine voice. Naruto, come here, Naruto. Naruto began to walk down the hall, the same blank look on his face. As he walked down the hallway, the voice grew louder and louder. Finally, he stopped in front of a door that had 3 spirals surrounding a single kanji. He pushed open the door and walked inside. Inside the doorway was a large living room with beautiful furniture and a fireplace. Naruto walked towards the chair, where a soft hand was laid out on the arm of the chair. Naruto! Naruto's eyes blinked as the room faded away, before he was shot out of his mind. Outside. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and he found Kakashi in front of him, shaking his shoulders. Naruto, wake up, damn it, I said wake, crack. Naruto buried his fist in Kakashi's jaw as he shouted. I'm awake for the love of Kami. Damn, he rotated his arm as he groaned. I think you threw out my damn shoulder, you prick. He felt his shoulder crack a few times and sighed. Much better. He looked up and found Sasuke and Sakura staring at him. What? Sasuke was about to speak, but Sakura placed a hand over his mouth. Naruto, we have been trying to wake you up for the past 10 minutes, but you were in a trance-like state. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Sasuke snorted. Yeah, I was about ready to kick you to wake you up. But Kakashi-sensei arrived just before I could, damn bastard. The last part was muttered under his breath. Naruto scowled underneath his hood. Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Kakashi got up after snapping his nose back in place. Ouch, man, Naruto, was that really necessary? Naruto frowned in Kakashi's direction. I don't know, was it necessary to shake me like a rag doll? Kakashi, I smiled. Touché. Now, if you have your papers filled out, could I please have them? Sasuke and Naruto handed theirs to Kakashi, while Sakura hesitantly did so. As the 3 of them trained, Naruto could not help but wonder what that voice was that was calling him, and why he was so drawn to it. Naruto never noticed the seal on his back glow momentarily before it began to fade into his skin. With Kushina. Kushina groaned in pain as she sat up, her body feeling like it had been trampled by a herd of antelope. She grabbed her head. Damn, that freaking hurts. She tried to stand, and ended up losing her balance as she grabbed the arm of a chair. Dear Kami, what is wrong with me? The seal is merely taking effect. She snapped around to see a hooded figure standing behind her. I am terribly sorry to intrude, but Orochimaru-sama saw fit to give you this. He held out a scroll that had a teardrop on it. Orochimaru's favorite symbol. Kushina carefully took the scroll, not sure what to do with it. The man, as if reading her mind, spoke up. The scroll contains information on the seal Orochimaru-sama applied to both you and your son. Each of your seals are different, but are still linked. I have not read it, so I cannot explain more than that. The man stepped back and bowed. A great many thanks for your assistance in aiding Orochimaru-sama. He turned around and walked into a shadowed part of the room, vanishing in the shadows. Kushina looked at where the man had vanished, and then grinned widely as she turned her eyes to the scroll. She practically tore it open as she began to read. Unknown location. It was dark, as if the room had never seen sunlight, or knew even the faintest glimmer of a candle. The walls were solid stone, and the faint etchings of kanji and cracks were apparent. On the other side of the room, sitting atop a great serpentine statue, a humanoid figure was sitting with its legs crossed, and the only sign that they were alive was the telltale rise and fall of their chest. Suddenly, the figure's eyes snapped open, revealing golden orbs, and turned their attention towards a point on the wall. So you have returned. The figure grinned, revealing snake-like teeth. So, how did it go? The same cloaked figure that gave Kushina the scroll got down on one knee. Orochimaru-sama, the scroll has been delivered, as per your instructions. The figure stood up, and snapped his fingers. The room was suddenly lit as candles were set ablaze, and the face of Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin was revealed. Very good, my loyal servant. He leapt down from the top of the statue, landing on his feet as he turned towards the exit. The snake Sannin was about to walk through the doorway, Orochimaru-sama, but stopped as the man whom had delivered the scroll to Kushina spoke up. If I may ask, my lord, why did you give Kushina the Master Seal? A Master Seal connected to a Servant Seal that controls the Jinchuriki of the most powerful Bijou, especially when she shows absolute hate for you for the destruction of her village? Orochimaru looked at the man without emotion. They felt fear at the look and bowed all the way to the floor. Please forgive me, my lord, I did not mean to offend you. IW was merely. That is enough groveling. The man looked up to see Orochimaru smirking. Your question is perfectly understandable. He walked over to the man. Why would I give a seal that allows one to manipulate another with a matching seal to someone whom hates me? Why would I give her the strength to command a Jinchuriki who has the capability to become 1,000 times stronger than me? Why would I risk such a force opposing me? His smirk widened. The answer is simple, my dear servant, but now is not the time to discuss it. He turned around and headed towards the doorway. In the meantime, continue your mission. The man raised his head to reveal a single lock of white hair coming from underneath his hood. As you command, Orochimaru-sama. He melted back into the shadows as Orochimaru transcended down a set of stairs. On the walls, carvings of snakes and dark runes laced every inch of the wall. Pictures of many people also adorned the walls, all of them, the greatest warriors from their lands. He finally reached the bottom and pushed open the doors, revealing his personal laboratory. Young snake hatchlings in jars with multiple heads, human organs connected to tubes, and several preserved cadavers laid about the room. He walked towards a single set of doors on the other side of the room, and slid open the doorway. Orochimaru smirked as he looked at its contents. A severed left hand, with a single ring adorning the pinky finger, the gem a slate blue color, and the kanji for void in the center. Various scrolls were pinned to the wall, but a single tablet rested in the center, protected from humidity, decay, and possible contamination by a sheet of glass. Orochimaru smirked as he walked over to the first cadaver. Now where to begin? He picked up a scalpel and placed it in the middle of the forehead. Perfect. The sound of metal cutting flesh could be heard throughout the room, only a dark chuckle being heard besides it. Time skip. Chunin exam day. Team 7 walked past Kakashi as he explained how if one of them refused to partake in the exams, none of them would be allowed to continue. Naruto basically turned it out, as there was no reason to explain it after the fact. Once they walked inside, they found themselves staring at a group of genin larger than any he had ever seen before. He looked around and saw many teams from Konoha, some of which were as old as Kakashi-sensei. If we have genins as old as our senseis, then how the hell is Konoha the greatest of the hidden villages? It was a good question, as when he looked around, he saw that many of the genin from other nations looked no older than 16 at most, still old, but not so old that it was pathetic. At least they had some battle scars. The entire group of genin stared back at him, and his team, those that came from Konoha, were shocked by his new look. He had finally managed to get the genjutsu up, but there were still some problems, as it left some of his facial scarring visible. It was nothing major, but it was new to the Konoha genin. He had also changed his wardrobe. He now wore an orange jumpsuit with black arms and shoulders, and a black cloth replaced his blue one for his headband, Shippuden outfit. Hey Dobe! Naruto turned around to see Inuzuka Kiba walking towards him. I got a few words to say to you. He grabbed the front of Naruto's shirt and snarled, Where the hell do you get off, bitch, slapping your own mother like ahahaha. Naruto squeezed Kiba's wrist, forcing him to let go before he shoved him backwards, knocking into a genin team from aim. Naruto snarled as the Inuzuka got up, Touch me again, mongrel, and I will feed you your pet on a stick. Kiba growled as he began to stalk over to Naruto. Hey you guys, you ought to keep it down, other teams here are pretty damn testy. Kiba and Naruto stopped their dispute and looked at the one who spoke. He was a white-haired teen with a purple shinobi outfit, and wore a pair of glasses. Naruto snorted, Who the hell are you? And why the hell should we listen to you? The man smiled, Oh, I am terribly sorry, my name is Yakushi Kabuto. He smirked as he pointed behind him. As for why you guys ought to keep it down, take a look at them. Naruto, Kiba, Sasuke, and Sakura looked behind Kabuto to see most of the people glaring at them, releasing a bit of ki. Naruto snorted and released a ki of his own, making the rest of the genin flinch back, weak. Kabuto raised an eyebrow and looked at Naruto. Impressive, I can honestly say that was the first time I have seen a green as a grasshopper's ass genin scare a bunch of veteran genin. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Zabuza was scarier than those punks. On the other side of the room, 3 individuals, all of them wearing headbands with a musical note on it, were looking at the blonde. One looked like a mummy with metallic gauntlets, another had spiky black hair and had an arrogant smirk on his face, and the other was a girl with long black hair tied in a ponytail. The mummy man looked to the others. That's the one. The spiky-haired male snorted. Him? Oh please, why would he? Was silenced as the girl slapped the back of his head. Shut it, Zaku, we are in a room filled with people. Do you honestly think talking about why we are here is a good idea? The mummy man looked at the now-known Zaku. For once, I agree with Kin, you have a bigger mouth than you are worth. Zaku snarled at the bandaged man. Oh shut up, Dosu, or so help me out, bang. Zaku was silenced as Kin smacked him over the head with an iron bar. Would the two of you shut the fuck up? We are here to observe the contestants, not prove which of you is dumber. She said it silently and with a hiss, forcing her 2 teammates to shut up. Team 10 and the rest of Team 8 joined Kiba and Team 7 as they spoke with Kabuto, who had brought out his Nin-info cards. So, is there anybody specific you want to know about? Kiba and Sasuke spoke at the same time. Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone looked at the two of them as if they had gone crazy. Kabuto frowned. And you even know their name? That ruins the fun. He pulled out a Nin info card and charged chakra into it. Once it was charged, he looked at the card, raising an eyebrow in confusion. I think somebody might have tampered with my cards. There is no way a new gen in AHS done this. He turned the card towards them, shocking everyone there. Uzumaki Naruto. Born October 10th, 0 AK, after QB. Parents, classified. Ninjutsu, high. Genjutsu, below average. Taijutsu, above average. Notable traits: blonde hair, blue eyes, whisker marks. Beyond Kage level reserves. Feats: completed an A-rank mission before graduation, killed 2 mid-B rank nuke Nins, 1 A-rank nuke Nin, and an A-rank unregistered Nin, and massacred an army of thugs in less than a minute. Everybody stared at Naruto in shock. Naruto, the dobe of the academy, he accomplished that. Kabuto looked at his card. I swear, this card must have been altered. Nobody in Konoha's history has that kind of track record. Naruto smirked. Until now, that is. He grabbed Kabuto's card, and if I have anything to say about it, nobody else will know. The card was torn apart before the pieces were dropped back into Kabuto's hands. The white-haired genin looked at Naruto. This boy is more than I originally thought. Orochimaru-sama should know about this. Poof! A large cloud of smoke erupted in the middle of the room, and revealed a large bear-like man surrounded by a large group of chunins. Alright, you maggots. Welcome to the first stage of the chunin exams. I am your proctor, Ibiki Marino. 5 minutes later. Naruto sighed as Ibiki finished explaining the rules. He hated written exams. He may have worn a mask of stupidity, but he truly sucked at written exams. Naruto grabbed the pencil and looked at the first question, only to raise an eyebrow in confusion as the words seemed to shift around and form entirely new ones. Do I have dyslexia? He looked at the paper to see what it said. My Sochi, do not hate your Ka-chan, please come back to mommy. Naruto shook his head and looked back at the question, to find it was back to normal. What was that? He looked up at the clock only to curse. 15 minutes had already passed. Shit, I don't have time to worry about this. Naruto then went about trying to answer the questions in front of him. Elsewhere. Kushina sat on an armchair as she looked at the mural she had made of Naruto, using every possible picture she could find. She caressed their cheeks. My Sochi, do not hate your Ka-chan, please come back to mommy. On the back of her neck, the mark glowed as the marks swirled around the kanji. Naruto cursed as he looked at the test in front of him. There was no way in hell he could answer these, not by a long shot. He would be lucky if he managed to get one of them right, or even come up with an answer that didn't sound like he pulled it out of his ass. Come on, how the hell was he supposed to know the trajectory of a kunai launched 12 feet in the air towards a pine tree with a northeasterly wind? This was stuff he knew even Sakura would have trouble with. It was fucking ludicrous. Naruto looked up at the clock and felt his heart nearly stop. How the hell was time going by so fast? He only had 15 minutes left to go of the exam before the 10th question would be handed out. He inwardly prayed that somebody somewhere could help him. With Kushina. Kushina sat down on her chair in front of the mural of Naruto she had constructed, and on her lap, the scroll which Orochimaru's servant had given her, lay rolled out. She held it up in the candlelight of the dark chambers, as she examined the writings, and she was shocked when she came upon something. See through the eyes of the one bearing the matching seal, whether they know it or not. Kushina read through the scroll, reading through the directions. Charge a minuscule amount of chakra directly into the seal to allow you to access the seal's hidden eye. This will allow you to see through the eyes of the one who wears the matching seal. Kushina needed no more invitation than that. She quickly charged the said amount of chakra into the seal and collapsed as she felt a pull on her mind. It felt as if she was being pulled through a tornado, and thrown about as she focused on the chakra she was inputting into the seal. The world spun around her as if she were in the center of the eye of a tornado. And then suddenly it stopped. She slowly opened her eyes, to find a blurry scene, but it slowly began to clear, and she could see what was before her. She grinned inwardly as she realized where she was. I am looking through my Sochi's eyes. Why? Kushina wanted to jump around for joy, but stopped when she saw what her child was looking at and was immediately filled with rage. How dare they present my son with a test he has no chance to pass? She was already thinking of the horrible ways she would murder the proctors and all those who dared to try and stunt her child's growth through the ranks when she remembered another portion on the scroll. While viewing through the eyes of the one whom bears the matching seal, just think of what you want to have the bearer know. Kushina smirked and looked over the questions. They were hard, extremely hard. It would be impossible for anyone with an abnormally high IQ rating to answer them. Luckily, Kushina had just that. Naruto POV. Naruto cursed as he looked up at the clock, only 10 minutes left to go. There was no way in hell he was going to figure out enough of the problems to get through this. Third pine branch to the southern edge with a 45 tilt to the blade. Naruto practically jumped out of his skin when he heard somebody speak in his head. What the he looked at the question. The voice in his head had just given him the damn answer, but how? Naruto shook his head of those thoughts. Don't question it, just be thankful you have the damn answer. Naruto quickly went about writing the answer, inwardly thanking the voice in his head. Naruto then looked at the second question. You are surrounded on all sides by enemy shinobi, you are depleted of chakra and use Kawarimi with one of the enemy shinobi and throw a smoke bomb in the confusion to make your escape. Naruto knew that somehow, listening to voices in your head was bad, but then again, they did have good ideas. He quickly wrote down the answers as the voice in his head gave them away. He would have to find some way to repay the voice in his head someday. Kushina POV. Kushina felt her heart skip a beat at Naruto's thought. Oh my Sochi, thank you so much. She inwardly hugged herself, thinking of having her son repay her. A hug, a kiss, a night where we are together as a mother and child. Kushina was thinking happily to herself as she thought of all the possibilities. Finally, at long last, my Sochi and I can be together. Oh, how I have longed for this. Ever since. Kushina stopped her train of thought and sneered. Curse you, Minato, you took my chance of being a mother from me. You worthless bastard. She shook in rage. How dare you try to use my Sochi for your own sick ideals? She spent several moments ranting inwardly until finally she took a deep breath and sighed. Calm down, Kushina. The past is the past. Minato is out of your life now. But your child needs your help. She looked out of Naruto's eyes and she felt immense terror. The 10th question had come. General POV. Ibiki snapped. All right, you maggots, put your pencils down and listen up. As he watched all the contestants put down their pencils, he smirked, before replacing it with his usual scowl. Now, before I give out the 10th question, I am going to let you know a few more rules. Temari stood up and shouted, What more rules? Are you fucking kidding me? Ibiki snapped his head towards Temari. No, I am not kidding you. Now sit your ass down. Or so help me, I'll boot you out of the Chunin exams faster than you can say Bunshin. Temari swallowed the lump in her throat and sat down. She had no desire to piss off this man. Ibiki turned towards the contestants. Now, before I was so rudely interrupted, he sent a glare towards Temari, who shook with fright. I was going to explain the rules. He cast a glance at everyone, judging their reactions. Now, before I explain the rules, I wish to let you all know that you have the choice to take the question, or not. Kiba stood up. What, then what the hell is the point of giving the 10th question? Ibiki snarled at Kiba. Maybe if you would shut up and let me finish, you would find out. Kiba grumbled as he sat down while Ibiki looked back at the assembled genin. As I was saying, you have the choice to take the next question or not, but if you don't take it, then you automatically fail. One of the students shouted, Then of course we'll take it. What kind of a dumb rule is that? Ibiki smirked. But if you do take it, and you get it wrong, you are forbidden from ever taking the Chunin exams ever again. The room was so quiet you could hear a feather hit the floor. Kushina POV. Kushina was absolutely livid as she glared at Ibiki. This man had the gall to try and deny her child a chance to become a Chunin. How dare that loathsome little runt? She swore to make him suffer. Naruto POV. Naruto shook at Ibiki's statement, forbidden from ever entering the Chunin exams ever again. He had to be bluffing. There was no way this guy had that kind of power to bar them from the Chunin exams, never to be promoted to Chunin. It was downright ludicrous. Naruto sat still as team after team left the room, not wanting to be barred from the Chunin exams, thinking that they could take it next time. Finally, only half of the original amount still remained. Ibiki watched over them, waiting until there was no sign that anybody else was going to leave. He inwardly smirked. Seems I scared quite a few of them off. A shame that only 6 teams from Konoha made it this far. Out of all the contestants, it seemed as though Konoha, the strongest of the hidden villages, produced the most amount of failures this time around. It was a shame, really. Then again, the academy standards had been rather lax lately. After a few more minutes, Ibiki smirked. Now, before I give the final question, I wish to let all of you know that each and every one of you. Kushina POV. Kushina snarled inwardly. I can't take this anymore. No way am I letting this bastard impede what I have worked so hard to set in motion. She applied more chakra to the seal as she remembered another part of the seal. With enough chakra, the bearer of the master seal can take brief control over the wearer of the servant seal. She applied the chakra and inwardly thought, "Forgive me, my Sochi." General POV. Fa Ibiki was suddenly cut off by Naruto slamming his fist on his desk and shouting, "For the love of Kami, would you just give us the damn question already? I am so sick and tired of waiting. 'Cause I know for sure that my enemies aren't going to be merciful enough to talk before they give me their damn ultimatums." Ibiki gave Naruto a hard look. "You have some guts, kid. You do realize that if you take the question and fail, you..." Naruto shouted again, "And just how the fuck is that different from everyday shinobi life? If you take a mission and you fail to succeed in the mission, people might die. If you succeed, however, you are all the stronger for it. The difference is that there is no take it now and deal with it later option in real life, so just give us the question or just shut the fuck up already, you stupid bastard." Everyone stared at Naruto as he stared down the bear-like Jonin interrogator. Everyone had the same thought on their mind. Is he insane? Kuku. Everybody turned their heads towards Ibiki, who was chuckling. Kuku ha 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 ha. Finally, a snot-nosed brat who isn't a moron. It's about damn time. I was getting real sick and tired of failing so many worthless Chunin candidates. He walked up to Naruto and slapped him on the back. "You're alright in my book, kid." He looks at everybody. He thankful this kid is here. I was about ready to fail every last one of you. He walked back down to the desk and smirked as he held up his hand. 3, 2, 1. Crash. The window to the room shattered as a black blur shot out and revealed a large banner that said, "Mitarashi Enko, Proctor of Exam 2. And in front of the banner was the same scantily clad woman he met before he went on his first C rank. Enko grinned widely. "Alright, maggots, quit your celebrating because now you're in hell, my hell, bwahahaha." Time skip. Forest of Death. Essentially the same thing happens as in canon, but Kiba is the one who gets his cheeks sliced, not Naruto's. Naruto walks out of the tent, clutching his head in pain. "Kami, damn it, what the hell happened to me? Why the fuck did I say that?" He shook his head. "Oh well, no use dwelling on it, I'm here, so I can't really complain all that much." He walked over to his team but stopped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He quickly snapped around and found himself staring at the kunoichi from Kusugakure that got behind the proctor earlier when she sliced Kiba's cheek. She had ebony black hair, tan skin with a beautiful feminine figure, a slight bust. She wore a form-fitting outfit, but Naruto could sense the power rolling off of her. She grinned lightly. "So is it true, are you Uzumaki Naruto?" Naruto shook her hand off his shoulder. "Who wants to know?" The woman chuckled. "Oh, I would like to know, Naruto-kun." She started walking around him, as if examining a fine piece of artwork. "I heard about your exploits in Nami no Kuni, how you mercilessly butchered an army of thugs, took down a missing nin that could challenge an ANBU Black Ops, and ended the mighty Momochi Zabuza himself." She placed her hand on Naruto's chin. "I would like to know so much more about such a strong..." She grinned a bit as she ran her fingers along his skin, "and handsome shinobi." Naruto snorted and batted her hand away, not interested. The kunoichi frowned but smiled. Soon enough Naruto-kun, a mark on the back of her neck glowed. Soon enough she walked away with a saunter to her steps towards her teammates, who seemed to be standing there lifeless until she passed by them, and then followed her like obedient dogs. Naruto arrived at the gate where his two teammates were waiting, and rested his back against the wall as Sasuke glared holes in him. "Alright everyone, be ready, because once those gates open, you are on your own. Remember, do not lose your teammates, do not lose your scroll, and stay alive." The lights on the door shifted red. Teammates settled themselves into their stances. Kiba was angrily looking in the direction of Naruto's gate. "I am going to show him just where he stands." The lights shifted orange. The Kusugakure kunoichi licked her lips. "Here I come, Naruto-kun." The lights turned green and a loud beep went over the intercom as the gates swung open, and the teams launched themselves inside. The second portion of the Chunin exams had begun. With Kushina. Kushina was pacing in her room as she looked over the scroll that Orochimaru had provided to her. How did Orochimaru come up with this? She examined the seals. This is so much like the cursed seals he makes, but it's far more advanced. "Hello, Kushina." Kushina snapped her head around to find Orochimaru standing right behind her. "So, I see you have already progressed in studying the seal's capabilities." Kushina watched Orochimaru as he walked over to the scroll, and ran his fingers along the ink. "You know, Kushina, you and I are so very much alike." He turned towards Kushina, who had a look of confusion on her face. "Both of us have goals that all others believe are unattainable, yet despite that, we go to the greatest of lengths to see to it that our desires become reality." He grinned. "Even selling out our own homes." Kushina sneered. "How dare you, vile snake, compare me to..." Orochimaru raised his hand, cutting her off. "Don't try and deny it, Kushina. It will make life so much easier. Kushina took a deep breath. Why are you here? Orochimaru grinned. Straight to the point, I like that. He turned completely towards her. I thought I should let you know that I am having one of my subordinates follow your son in the exams just to make certain he is safe. Kushina raised an eyebrow. Why is that so important if they are there to protect him then? However, the subordinate I sent is a bit unstable. He grinned and looked at Kushina, who got a look of panic on her face. I was previously unaware of her instability until I found this. He placed a folder on her bed. Sadly, the exams have tighter security than I thought this year, so I can't go in and take care of her myself, so I thought perhaps you would be able to do something. He smirked lightly before he melted into the floor and vanished. What do you mean unstable? Kushina asked, her voice cracking in fright at the possible implications. Orochimaru smiled and pulled out a folder. Perhaps this will enlighten you. He placed it on her bed before he vanished into the floor. Kushina walked over to the folder and quickly opened it, and her eyes widened in terror and fury. Oh Kami, no! She dropped the folder and ran out of the room towards the forest of death. Unknown location. Orochimaru stalked down the halls of his hidden base, a dark chuckle escaping his lips. I guess that was a bit cruel, but unless she learns to access the cursed seal, then it will not matter how well she learns to use that scroll. His smile contorted into a grin, and what better way than to make her want to kill a convicted rapist who is after her child? Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura leapt through the forest of death in the direction of the tower. The three of them had already agreed that heading to the tower and setting traps was the easiest way for them to get another scroll. Currently, Naruto was scowling as he looked around, still aggravated at what he had done in the examination hall. Sakura looked towards Naruto and lightly bit her lip. Naruto, what you did back in the exam room, that was. Never speak of it again. Naruto spat with absolute hate and venom. Sakura flinched back at the cruel tone in Naruto's voice as Sasuke sneered at him. What is your problem, Naruto? She was just trying to be nice to you. Why do you have to cut her down for that? He asked angrily. Naruto glared at Sasuke. To what point is how I treat her any of your business? He snapped with distaste and leapt further into the forest. Sasuke scowled as Sakura looked down. Ever since the incident in the office where they met his mother, Naruto's temper had grown shorter and shorter. He now would strike at them with harsh words whenever they spoke to them, and in spars they would not walk away without some severe bruising. What happened to the Naruto they once knew? As they followed after their blonde teammate, they never noticed the glistening lust-filled eyes watching them leave. At the gates of the forest of death, Mitarashi Anko was sitting on a stump eating dango, smiling as she hummed to herself while the screams from the forest had echoed through her ears. Ah, so they've already started. Grinning to herself, she took the dango stick out of her mouth and flung it at a tree, completing a toothpick insignia of Konoha. Leaning back, she smiled to herself. I wonder whose blood has been spilled first? She chuckled and reached for her dango. Yours, Sqlch. Anko's eyes widened as her hand was just about to grab the last stick of dango. She slowly turned her head towards her stomach to find a blade sticking out of her. As quickly as it had entered, it was torn out, causing blood to pour out of Anko's stomach and back as she fell over, already feeling lightheaded from the sudden loss of blood. Coughing up blood, she looked up as her assailant walked past her. Even through her dim gaze, she managed to catch a single feature on her assailant: their fiery red hair. With that single trait remembered, she lost consciousness as the blood began to pool around her. With Team 7, Naruto stopped in a clearing and looked around while Sasuke and Sakura stopped behind him. Naruto turned towards them. Let's set up some traps here. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Why? We are not even halfway through the forest yet? Naruto turned around and looked at him, crossing his arms. Because Sasuke, if we set up some traps before the tower, they will already be tired out before we even finish setting up the traps near the tower, making them easier to take down. He took off his backpack and started rooting through it, while Sasuke scoffed and turned around, about to set up some traps of his own. Sakura sighed and shook her head, then looked up as she heard a twig snapping. Naruto and Sasuke heard the same thing and looked up in the direction the twig snap was heard, and they quickly pulled out their kunai. The bushes rustled as they lowered into a fighting stance. They were about to throw their kunai at the bush as the leaves parted to reveal a deer? The deer looked up at them and tilted its head, swiftly turning around and running into the forest. The three of them breathed a sigh of relief and resumed a rest position. In the trees, a pair of eyes grinned and smirked as it reached into its pouch and pulled out a spherical object covered in tiny holes. Outside Forest of Death, Kotetsu and Izumo were heading in the direction of the Forest of Death, carrying several documents from the Hokage's office. Kotetsu sighed in annoyance. Good grief, why do we have to do this? Izumo snapped in annoyance. For the 17th time, Kotetsu, it's because it is our job. Now stop whining, you sound like my mother. Kotetsu frowned and stuck out his tongue, then sighed in annoyance. But seriously, what is the point of this? Izumo stopped and shrugged. I am not sure, Sandaime-sama wants Anko to sign these forms for some reason. Kotetsu frowned. Why Anko? Aren't there more qualified people for signing forms? Izumo took the top sheet and handed it to Kotetsu. Read it. Kotetsu took the sheet and looked at it. His eyes widened in recognition. Oh, I see now. Izumo smirked and snatched it from Kotetsu's hands. Yeah, tell me about it. And began to walk ahead, the Forest of Death in sight. Kotetsu sighed and scratched his head as they were nearing the Forest of Death. How does somebody rack a bill? Kotetsu stopped as Izumo froze in front of him. Hey, Izumo, what is going on up? Anko! Izumo shouted as he suddenly dropped all the forms in his arms and ran towards Anko, who was lying in front of the fence to the Forest of Death, a pool of blood underneath her. Shit! He looked up at Kotetsu, whose eyes were wide in shock at what he was seeing. Kotetsu, go get help, now! She has lost a lot of blood. Kotetsu did as he was told and set down the forms, then ran in the direction of the nearest aid, while Izumo tried to seal up Anko's wound. Izumo scowled as he looked up at the forest. What the hell happened here? In the forest, a figure slashed a tree in two, and frantically looked around, carrying a long katana tinted with red. The figure leapt off into the distance, passing through a ray of sunlight. The figure was in fact Kushina, wearing her usual clothing, but carrying a katana coated with blood. On her neck, her seal glowed brightly as it began to shift and stretch over her body. I am coming, my Sochi. Naruto. Naruto hissed in pain, dropping the wire he was trying to string up for a trap, clutching the back of his neck as he felt a burning sensation as a voice echoed in his head. I am coming, my Sochi. Hissing, he ignored the burning sensation as he returned to the task before him. Sasuke cursed as he cut open his palm, then looked towards Naruto. This is ridiculous, Naruto. By the time most of the teams reach the edge of the forest and get to the tower, they will be too tired to fight. What is the point of tiring ourselves out making useless traps? Naruto snarled and stood up. Do you honestly think that the forest alone will be enough? Most countries have their genin go through environments like these every day, so no doubt some of the teams are not only going to make it, but they are also going to be strong enough to fight us. If you are so worried about that, use that power you used in Wave to kill them. As the two argued with each other, Sakura sighed and sat down, hoping they could work things out like they used to. Thump. Sakura turned her head in the direction she heard the sound, and saw a spherical object roll across the ground, covered in holes, and it began to hiss. Sakura's eyes widened. Oh shit, and she turned towards Naruto and Sasuke. Get due. It was too late. The sphere exploded, sending a hail of Saban, glistening as if they had a transparent fluid coating the points. The Saban stabbed into Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto. Sakura immediately began to feel drowsy and fell over, unconsciousness claiming her, with Sasuke following suit. Naruto groaned as his vision became bleary, and slowly looked down. He had been hit all over his arms and neck with the Saban, but the Kyuubi was keeping whatever it was lacing the Saban from affecting him for now at least. Kakukumai, so my special venom did not affect you, cutie. Naruto's eyes widened as he swiftly turned his head, hissing in pain as he agitated the Saban, and for a split moment, he managed to make out the figure of their assailant. The figure was the same Kunoichi who was putting the moves on him before the exam even started. Naruto stepped back, and hissed in pain as he fell to one knee, his vision becoming even blurrier as his body began to feel tired. What the hell did you do to me? He snapped out, his words slurred as whatever it was in those Saban was taking effect. The woman giggled to herself as she reached up towards her top and lightly gripped it. Oh, just my special tranquilizer. She ripped off her top, revealing her bare as she sauntered up towards Naruto, removing any remaining pieces of her top. Naruto tried to stand, but fell over right towards the woman, who caught him and grinned, lust evident on her features. She licked her lips, and in a swift motion pressed her lips against Naruto's, gasping as she forced her tongue into his mouth, moaning deeply into the sensual kiss. She then broke the kiss, a trail of saliva connecting their lips before she eagerly lapped up the saliva. Naruto growled as he felt the Kyuubi's yuki start to leak its way into his body. The woman grinned as she wagged her finger. There will be none of that. She cracked her fingers as she charged chakra into her fingertips and cried, Gojio Fuin, and slammed her fingertips into his stomach. Immediately, Naruto felt the presence of the Kyuubi's Yuki fade, and his blurry eyes grew even more blurry, and his body felt even heavier. The last thing he heard before unconsciousness claimed him was, now that the pest is gone, let's get to the fun part. Outside the forest of death, Hiruzen Sarutobi and a large group of ANBU had gathered around where Enko had been attacked. Hiruzen had donned his battle armor and turned towards the ANBU, squads Alpha, Beta, and Epsilon, enter the forest and locate all Genin squads and escort them out of the forest, or to the tower. Squads Gamma, Delta, and Omega, enter and find the hostile as quickly as you can. The rest of you, create a perimeter around the forest, and make sure that you stop them and make sure they are not hostiles before you let them pass. As of now, the Chunin exams are over. Move out. The ANBU saluted, Hi Hokage-sama, and darted into their positions. Hiruzen looked towards the forest, clenching his fists. Be safe. In the forest, Kushina darted through the trees, frantically looking around for her child, her eyes darting left and right at the slightest sound. Kushina finally stopped as she felt a sharp pain resound throughout her stomach, and the echoing sound of Gojio Fuin reverberated through her eardrums. Kushina then snapped her head to the left as the marks from her seal stretched further across her body, and she sped in the direction she had turned to. With Naruto. Naruto had been tied up, spread eagle, his trousers and undergarments completely removed. His eyes were still closed, still unconscious from the Kyuubi's Yuki being sealed off from him, and the poison lacing the Saman. Meanwhile, his assailant had stripped herself of all her clothes, and was now simply caressing her body, pinching her and rubbing her womanhood to arouse herself. The woman grinned as she stopped pleasuring herself, and allowed her juices to lightly trickle down her legs as she walked towards the now pinned and unconscious Naruto. She then got onto all fours and crawled over to him. Grinning, she grabbed his exposed manhood and lightly squeezed it, causing it to harden. The woman crawled up to Naruto's ear and whispered with lust, You are mine, and she crawls on top of him, positioning his manhood at her entrance. Back off my Sochi bitch! Before she could turn her head, she was kicked off of Naruto, and skidded several feet back, before slamming into one of the many surrounding trees. Gritting her teeth, the woman turned to see who assaulted her. Standing in front of the vulnerable Naruto was Kushina, holding a katana coated in blood, her eyes filled with hate and dark markings slowly trickling across her body. Keep your filthy hands off, and why, child, you wench? The woman could not help but shiver at Kushina's distorted voice, which kept shifting between pitches, yet still keeping her normal voice. She could not help but stare at the markings trickling across Kushina's flesh. Orochimaru-sama's curse mark? Kushina snarled and charged at the girl, her katana raised to kill, die. The woman jumped to the side just in time to avoid Kushina's blade, and grinned, So, Orochimaru-sama gave you a curse mark as well. This will make things much more fun. She jumped at Kushina and kicked her in the side before she could react, then jumped back as Kushina stumbled. Kushina growled at the woman, I am going to make you suffer. The marks trickled faster over her skin, and her left eye began to turn a golden color. The woman grinned as a dark chakra leaked out from her body, and the same markings on Kushina quickly spread across her body. We shall see. The markings continued to spread across her body, causing her features to change. Her black hair was tinted with a darker hue, her once pale skin turning a dark ghostly gray color. Her nails lengthened into talons, and her teeth became as fangs. Her eyes were overcome by a golden yellow hue as she snickered darkly, Once I am finished with you, I will introduce your precious child to so many pleasures. Kushina snarled hatefully, Not on your life, and charged towards the woman, swinging her katana with killing intent. Hidden location. Sitting upon a serpent-like throne, the snake Sannin opened his golden slitted snake eyes, and grinned as he felt a shiver of dark power course through his veins. He chuckled to himself as he interlaced his fingers. All according to plan. He smirked and looked to the ceiling. My lord. Orochimaru looked back down as his servant kneeled before him, an aged scroll in hand. As you have commanded, my lord. He presented the aged scroll to the snake Sannin. Orochimaru smiled as he reached out and took the scroll from the man. Were there any complications? The man kneeling before him shook his head. None, my lord. The scroll was as unguarded as a stone in the road. The snake Sannin's smile widened as he hissed, Good. With a wave of his hand, the servant got up and left. Smiling down towards the scroll, he turned it over, revealing the seals of the Uchiha and Senju clans. Now, the history and knowledge of the Uchiha and Senju clans is mine. Swiftly opening the scroll, Orochimaru looked upon its contents, and his grin reached almost impossible proportions as he saw its contents. Meanwhile, Kushina skidded back, her left eye still the same golden color as before as he katana dripped with new blood. The woman stumbled several feet, clutching her side as she was still in her curse mark form, a river of blood trailing down from the open wound on her side. Kushina let out a war cry, and charged at the woman who was now unable to defend herself, the dark markings from the curse mark crawling over her flesh even faster than before. Squelch! Before the woman could move, Kushina had driven her sword deep into the woman's sternum, clean out through her back. She coughed up several globs of blood as Kushina tore the blade out of her, then in a sudden movement swung it back, severing the woman's head from her shoulders. As the woman's head hit the ground, the dark marks on Kushina's body receded back into the original seal just before ANBUs swarmed the area. It was quiet, more silent than a grave, more silent than a hushed blow of wind. Beep. The silence was broken by the hospital monitor, hooked up to the unconscious form of one Enko Mitarashi. The Sandaime stood over her, a few stray tears leaking from his eyes as he looked at her form. Enko, he reached out and gently touched her cheek. After Izumo and Kotetsu had found Enko, they had immediately gotten help as quickly as they could. ANBU and Medic Nin arrived with the ANBU contingency that headed into the forest of death. She had been rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. Upon arrival, her heart had stopped a few times from loss of blood. It took several Medic Nin and a few shinobi to restart her heart, but even then she was not out of the woods. They had to utilize over 20 packs of blood, and even then, it was only to keep her alive while they got to the other problems with her body. Whatever had been used to impale her had also cut through her liver, intestine, and had started to spill waste from those two organs into the body, and just as they were finishing up fixing the organs, they had to carefully remove all the waste, lest an infection erupts. They had managed to save her life, but at a cost. The Sandaime lowered his head, as he thought of how he was going to tell Enko the news when she woke up. Sighing, her turned to his side where the head medic was waiting. Yakushi-san, what did you manage to find from her injuries? The aforementioned Dr. Yakushi looked at his clipboard, which displayed every last inch of detail they managed to recover from examining her wounds. We managed to isolate the type of weapon used to attack her. It was a smooth blade, heavily sharpened, and was made with a typical groove structure found on many blades. The Sandaime sighed and rubbed his temples, so it could be anything from a wakizashi to a katana. He sighed and looked down at Enko, who had to be hooked up to a breathing apparatus. He could not help but let a tear fall in a way. He almost wished she never woke up, just so she would never have to hear the horrible news. Knock knock. Hiruzen turned towards the door, then looked at Dr. Yakushi, who nodded his head. Hiruzen nodded back and spoke, "Enter." The door was opened, and an ANBU entered the room. Sandaime-sama, I am here to deliver my findings on the intruder. The Sandaime looked at them. Speak. The ANBU nodded and presented their findings. We were able to make an identification on the genin. She was a Kyuzugaku genin, specifically one who had been convicted for rape 2 years prior. Just before her conviction could be placed, she managed to flee the village. Hiruzen frowned. And why was she not placed in the bingo book? The ANBU passed a single sheet of paper, which Hiruzen quickly skimmed through. She was the daughter of a noteworthy political figure within Kyuzugaku, who likely pulled some strings so his daughter would not be placed in any bingo books. Hiruzen sighed and shook his head. He then looked at his ANBU. Anything else to report? The ANBU was silent. Hiruzen frowned. Well? The ANBU gulped and spoke. The elders are waiting to speak to you in the lobby in regards to your decision towards Team 7. Hiruzen groaned as he massaged his temples, before he stood up and exited the room. Could this day get any worse? Namike's home. Kushina was pacing back and forth within the library, at times sitting down to examine the scroll Orochimaru had given her for the seal on her in Naruto, unconsciously reaching up to her neck, to trace the mild indentations the seal made in her skin. That dark, twisted power that had flowed through her, the pain she felt when her Sochi was adhered with the Gojyo Fuin. What in the hell had Orochimaru put on her and her Sochi's bodies? She could still feel those corrupted markings crawling across her skin, wrapping her body like a spider cocooning a meal to be eaten for later. She shivered to herself. Whatever that power was, it was nothing human, not by a long shot. As she looked back towards the scroll, she wondered to herself, was all of this worth it? Just to get back her son, who she had pushed away to begin with? Was it worth all the sacrifices she had to make? She lowered her head as doubt clouded her judgment before they snapped open, and a fierce glow entered them. Yes, it was all worth it. She had lost her chance to be a mother once. She will not lose it again. I knew we were alike, you and I, Kushina? Kushina's eyes widened before she snapped around, looking directly behind her, in the direction she had heard that oh-so-familiar voice. In the shadows, the golden snake-like eyes of Orochimaru were practically glowing with what she assumed was excitement, or at least whatever excitement Orochimaru could ever show to begin with. She shook her head and narrowed her eyes. Orochimaru, I want answers, now. Orochimaru chuckled as he exited the shadows, revealing himself to Kushina. Of course you do, dear Kushina-chan. After all, I am sure you have so many questions that you crave answers for. Kushina sneered and snapped at him. Don't mock me, Orochimaru. Just tell me what I want to know. What was that power that was flowing through me before? I know for a fact it is nothing like the curse marks you created. What the hell allowed you to put a connection between me and my Sochi? What the hell could you possibly gain from any of this? She near shouted as she shot off, killing intent towards the traitor Sannin. Orochimaru chuckled and looked at Kushina. My, such good questions. He looked towards the scroll. However, I am disappointed you did not try to see the answers for yourself. Kushina's eyes narrowed. How could I? The only thing you have given me is that scroll, and that does not tell me a damn thing. Orochimaru smirked and looked at Kushina. Doesn't it? Kushina was confused. What do you mean? I look at that scroll from every angle I could think of. There is no hidden ink, there is no secret message hidden within the lines, there is absolutely nothing. Orochimaru sighed half-heartedly and wagged his finger. Shame on you, Kushina. I expected this lack of observation from your dear departed husband, but from you as well? At the mention of Minato, Kushina launched herself at Orochimaru, pinning him to the wall. Don't you ever mention his name in my presence again. Orochimaru grunted as he was pressed against the wall, but a dark smirk graced his features. Oh. But it seems my mentioning of him gave you the key to the next step, my dear. Kushina's eyes quirked when she realized what had happened. Looking towards her arm closest to the mark that Orochimaru had put on her, she saw the markings crawling across her skin. Realization crossed her eyes, and she released Orochimaru from her grip. Orochimaru chuckled. I see that you understand now, Kushina. He simply walked past her and smiled. As his chakra seemingly vanished from the complex, a dark chuckle escaped his lips. Kushina looked up suddenly and ran back to the scroll, and she closed her eyes. All the while, the markings continued to trail across her arm. With the Sandaime. Hiruzen sighed as he left Enko's hospital room and headed towards the lobby. He could already feel the growing headache, knowing just how upset the elders were going to be regarding Team 7. As he entered the lobby, he saw his former teammates, Koharu and Hamura, and his longtime rival, Danzo. He sighed and walked towards them, as they looked at him expectantly. With a sigh, he spoke. My friends, could this not have waited until a more prudent time? Koharu was the first to answer. No, Hiruzen, a matter such as this cannot wait, not at such a critical time for our village's economic standing. Hiruzen frowned towards Koharu. He knew this was about more than economics. Economics? Or do you mean showing off the Uchiha and the last Namikaze? Hamura spoke up as Koharu was about to answer. At this point in time, showing the villages the strengths of two of our noteworthy clans will. Hiruzen snapped. First of all, dear Hamura, Naruto Uzumaki renounced his connection to the Namikaze, and in accordance to Konoha laws, he is now only connected to the clan by blood, but in our laws that is not nearly enough to make him officially a Namikaze. Secondly, despite the fact Sasuke is both an Uchiha by name and blood, one person does not make a clan. Even still, you know damn well why I made the decision that I did. Hamura and Koharu growled, but Danzo stepped forward. Hiruzen, surely you have not forgotten that our village is still recovering from the Kyuubi attack, and the war we had with Kumobakure not even a decade ago. At this point in time, do you not feel it prudent to impress our clients by any means available in order to speed up our recovery? Surely bending a few rules is a small price to pay. Hiruzen frowned. Those who enforce the laws must obey it. Danzo, would we even be having this conversation if Team 8 or Team 10 were the issue here? Danzo frowned and remained silent. Hiruzen snorted. That is what I thought. He looked at the three of them. My decision is final, and nothing you can say or do will change my mind towards Team 7. They lowered their heads in submission, albeit reluctantly. Hiruzen turned around and began to walk away. Hamura looked up and spoke. Hiruzen, does Team 7 know of this development? Hiruzen looked back towards Hamura. I have informed Kakashi, who is currently waiting in their hospital room for them to inform them. He turned away and began to walk off towards Enko's room. Team 7. Team 7 had been evacuated from the Forest of Death upon their discovery by the ANBU. They had been quickly brought to the hospital where they were treated for the toxin that was in their system. Sasuke and Sakura had since woken up, as they had the least amount of the toxin in their system. The moment they had woken up, Kakashi was there waiting for them to awake, and had told them their situation. Neither Sasuke or Sakura were pleased. What? Are you fucking kidding me? Sasuke and Kakashi covered their ears as Sakura shrieked, "We go through all that shit and this is how we are rewarded." Kakashi winced as his ears were ringing, sighing as he slapped the side of his head to get the ringing out of his ears. "I am as unhappy about it as you are, but the Hokage's decision is final. I am sorry, but even if I pleaded this to the council, the Sandaime will not back down on this." He sighed heavily. "Believe me, I tried to get him to change his mind but..." Sasuke and Sakura tuned him out, as they were too angry to listen to him. Their gaze instead turned to the bed of the last of their team who was still unconscious. Naruto had taken the brunt of the toxin, and so far it was taking him a lot longer to recover. Kakashi caught their gaze, and a worried sigh escaped his lips. Ever since that incident with Kushina before the wave mission, Naruto had become more and more violent and aggressive. He only hoped that this did not push him over the deep end, especially since Kushina herself was involved. With Anko Mitarashi. Hiruzen had returned to Anko's room as soon as he had gotten away from his old teammates, and his old warhawk of a comrade Danzo. How often he just wanted to release every bit of stress those three had caused him, and bury all three of them underneath a pile of rock. However, he had kept his composure all these years, and he was not about to snap just because they could not have their precious Uchiha and Naruto in the exams. Knock knock. Hiruzen looked towards the door and saw another nurse looking through the small window on the door. "Enter." The nurse entered and spoke. "Sandaime-sama, several ANBU just returned from the forest after doing a full sweep of it. They refused to divulge any information until you arrived." Hiruzen frowned and looked back at Anko. "Tell them that I will receive their report later." The nurse gulped and looked back, then turned to the Sandaime, asked Sandaime-sama, "They said it could not wait." Hiruzen slowly turned his head around, a cold look about him. "Are you disobeying the orders of your Sandaime?" The nurse shivered in fright and gulped. "They said it was a red alert." Hiruzen's eyes widened, before he frowned and looked back towards Anko. He then looked back at the nurse. "Nobody is allowed to enter this room besides Dr. Yakushi or myself. Am I understood?" The nurse nodded her head. "Why yes, Sandaime-sama." The Sandaime quickly stood up and hurried down the hallway as the nurse closed the door. The nurse sighed heavily and looked back at Anko's room with a frown. The Sandaime was right to be worried about Anko. It was not easy saving her life, and with what they had to take from her to keep her breathing, she was certain that he wanted to tell her the news herself. The nurse turned and was about to walk away. "Excuse me, Nurse-san." The nurse turned around to see a doctor walking towards her. The nurse turned around. "Doctor, how can I help you?" The doctor looked at her with a stoic look. "Dr. Yakushi sent me to determine Mitarashi-san's current condition. I would like for you to be present in case I require aid should any problems arise." The nurse's eyes widened. As the doctor went to reach for the door handle, her hand grasped the handle. "I am sorry, doctor, but the Sandaime has ordered that nobody besides Dr. Yakushi or himself are allowed to enter this room." The doctor frowned. "Dr. Yakushi himself sent me. I am sure the Sandaime will understand if..." The nurse snapped. "Sandaime's orders." Meanwhile, Anko's eyes began to flutter as her body twitched, trying to wake up. Groaning, she looked up at the ceiling. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Why was she in the hospital? Last thing she remembered was being in front of the Forest of Death when... Her eyes widened as she suddenly jolted into a sitting position. "Oh Kami, I have to report to Sandaime-sama." Anko tried to get off the bed, only for her to fall off the hospital bed and slam into the floor. Cursing, she looked at her legs. What the fuck? She could only barely move her legs, and even so, it was only a minor twitch at most. She cursed and tried to stand again, only to stop as she heard a loud argument just outside the room. She remained quiet and listened closely. "I'm telling you, Dr. Yakushi wants me to do a full scan of Mitarashi-san in case anything else is wrong with her. And I am telling you that the Sandaime ordered that nobody was to enter the room besides himself, or Dr. Yakushi. Since the Sandaime never expressed on the detail of Dr. Yakushi sending someone, I have no choice but to obey his orders and deny you entrance to this room. With all due respect, nurse, you are being stubborn for valid, yet unnecessary reasons. I however have to ensure that there is nothing else wrong with Mitarashi-san." Anko's eyes widened in shock. What was wrong with her? Unnecessary? Are you suggesting treason against your Sandaime? 'Cause that is exactly what disobeying a direct order from him is, treason, and I don't intend to be on the chopping block because I took your word at face value. Listen here, from just the surgery we had to do to save her life, we discovered that whatever had injured her had also nicked her spine enough that she will never be a shinobi again. That does not even include what we had to remove in order to keep her still breathing and prevent her from gaining any infections. Her capability in being a mother is now gone. And that was just from surgery, so dash. Anko tuned out the doctor and the nurse's argument, and she looked down at her legs, still twitching as she tried to force them to move, now going limp as she stopped trying subconsciously. Her eyes that passed towards her navel, her barren navel. She would never be a shinobi. She would never be a mother. Meanwhile, the doctor continued to shout at the nurse, and that was just from the surgery, so if all that happened at first glance, I need to make damn well sure there are no other issues. I cannot consciously let a potential further infection, or another injury go untreated just because the Sandaime is paranoid about what could just be a random attack. Is that so, doctor? The doctor froze in place as he slowly turned his head to see the anger-filled eyes of the Sandaime Hokage. Gulping, the doctor spoke, as Sandaime-sama, I? Do you mind telling me why you seem adamant to see a patient that your Hokage has deemed inaccessible to you? Regardless of orders from whoever? The doctor stuttered. DDR, Yakushi wanted me to. Dr. Yakushi's position does not supersede my orders. The Sandaime reached for the handle and began to open the door. Be lucky that Mitarashi-san is comatose, as with what you revealed without my consent, I could EASILY. Whatever the Sandaime was going to say died in his throat as he looked into the room, and saw Anko Mitarashi laying on the floor, her eyes filled with despair. The Sandaime knew by that look in her eyes everything the doctor had said to the nurse, Anko had heard. Taking a deep breath, the Sandaime walked up to Anko, still lying on the floor. He leaned down to the purple-haired jonin Anko. Anko slowly turned her head towards him, and whimpered, Is it true? She whimpered pathetically, Will I truly never be a shinobi again? Will I never be a mother? The Sandaime felt his heart break. Those were two questions he never wanted to answer, and he truly had no way to answer. I am so sorry, Anko. Anko knew what his answer was, and it broke the dam that held back her tears. In a heart-wrenching sob, she buried her face into the floor, sobbing as she subconsciously reached for her navel, and grasped onto the shirt covering her navel. The Sandaime lowered his head as he gently rubbed Anko's back, but not before casting a cruel glare back at the doctor, who was also being glared at by the nurse. Meanwhile, Naruto groaned as he slowly woke up. His eyes darted about the room as he managed to fully wake, and his eyes widened as he suddenly shot up and looked around to find Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi sitting around his bed. Naruto rubbed his eyes and looked where he was, frowning. What the I'm in a hospital. He looked around again, and his eyes were filled with panic as he turned towards the window, seeing the village of Konohagakure outside. Why were they back in the village? It was only after making these observations that he fully grasped that his team was in the hospital room with him. What is going on? Why are we in a hospital? He turned and looked around. Why aren't we in the forest? The exam. Sasuke and Sakura flinched, while Kakashi lowered his book and sighed. Naruto, perhaps you should calm down a bit. Naruto looked at Kakashi and frowned. Calm down? We were in the forest, why the hell are we in a hospital? He began to get out of the hospital bed, and looked around. He saw his clothes were sitting on a bench nearby, folded neatly. He walked over and grabbed them and began to put them on. Kakashi-sensei, where do we go to get back to the forest? We have to get back to the exams now. We still only have one scroll and… Kakashi finally spoke up. Naruto, Team 7 has been disqualified from the Chunin exams. Naruto's eyes widened as he froze as he was putting on his shirt. Silence reigned throughout the room for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Naruto snapped out of his shock and spoke. What? Why? He suddenly snapped, aggression clearly in his voice. Kakashi sighed and shook his head inwardly. He was hoping he would not have had to explain why they were disqualified. Sadly, it seemed as though Kami was spitting upon his desires. You were disqualified because Team 7 received outside help. Naruto snarled. Outside help? The last thing I remember was that Psycho Kusa bitch before I went completely unconscious. How the hell could we have known we got outside help? And on another matter, who the hell was it that helped us? He shouted, his anger at the situation clearly evident. Kakashi sighed. It does not matter. The rules state that if you receive help from outside of the exam, then you and your team shall be disqualified. I am sorry, Naruto, but for now you are just going to have to wait until next time for the Chunin exams. He stood up and was about to head for the door. Who helped us, Kakashi? Kakashi stopped and turned towards Naruto, who had narrowed his eyes. Who helped us in the exam? Who denied us my chance of becoming a Chunin? He asked with gritted teeth. Kakashi frowned. Naruto, I don't think you are in the right state of mind to. Who was it, Kakashi? Naruto snapped with a sudden burst of killing intent shooting out his body, and for his eyes to momentarily slit before returning to normal. Kakashi bit his lip and sighed. It was Kushina Namikaze. Naruto seemed to be frozen in his previous state, facial expression, stance, even the same level of killing intent was present. After what felt like 5 minutes, though, his facial expression began to change to one of apathy, his stance became more rigid, as if he was holding something back, and his killing intent completely subsided. Sakura and Sasuke were standing off to the side, watching the exchange. Sakura finally gained the nerve to speak, and Naruto did not waste a second, and he walked towards the hospital door, pushing past Kakashi and exiting the hospital room. Kakashi let out a sigh as he could feel the migraine coming. Meanwhile, Naruto walked down the streets of Konoha in a daze, his hair covering his face as he headed through the village of Konohagakure. He was in such a trance, he did not realize where he was going, until he found himself standing in the middle of one of the training grounds, looking straight at the training post. Naruto looked to the sky, 1,000 thoughts running through his head. He finally had the chance to become a Chunin, the chance to ascend in rank, the chance to become stronger was finally within his grasp, and the chance to fully sever himself from the village which had caused him so much pain in life. Snatched away by Kushina and Namikaze again. He grit his teeth as his fists clenched until his nails were digging into his palms. Ayag! And he swung his fist as hard as he possibly could into the training post, a resounding crack being heard throughout the clearing, causing the smaller animals to scatter at the sound. Naruto cursed as he brought his fist back, and saw what he had done to his hand. The knuckles had been practically skinned, and he could already feel the fracture that he had caused. He cursed and looked back at the post, which seemed almost unscathed. Frowning, and then sneering in disgust. He was weak, he was too weak. He was too weak to protect himself in the forest of death from that psycho of a kunoichi. He was too weak in the forest of death to prevent himself from being caught in such a trap. He was too weak to not be knocked unconscious by that kusa kunoichi's poison, and worst of all, he was too weak to stop that witch from helping him, and thus denying him his chance at freedom. He lowered his hands to his side as his facial features changed, again to a look of apathy. His knuckles began to heal rapidly, looking as good as new. He slowly turned away from the training post and headed back in the direction of the village. Naruto all the while thought to himself, I will become strong enough so that I never have to rely on anybody again, especially you, Kushina. As I said, you are all free to flame me to your heart's content. I deserve every last flame you send my way. Please look at the poll on my profile if you want a reboot of Kushina's love, Naruto's hate. 3 days had passed since the verdict of Team 7's disqualification from the Chunin exams had been announced. The news had spread like wildfire in the village. The last Uchiha and the Namikaze are unable to take the exams. It had spread flames of outrage, and petitions to reverse the Sandame's decision had been thrown left and right, not like it did much good. The Sandame had immediately struck down each petition, stating first and foremost that his decision was final, and that Team 7 would not be participating in the exams. This had left the village in a state of chaos, causing ANBU patrols to increase tenfold, and for arrests to shoot up, to the point where they were actually using the old warehouses to store prisoners before they were set for trial. The Sandame looked over another arrest warrant and sighed in aggravation, before looking up at the ANBU who had delivered the warrant. How many so far? The ANBU raised a clipboard. Last we checked, the current prisoner amount was over 257 prisoners. After this morning's riots, I am afraid those amounts are going to increase substantially. The Sandame sighed as he held his head in his palms. The ANBU looked down. Sandame-sama, forgive me, but the riots would stop if you allowed Team 7 to go forward in the Chunin exams. The Sandame lifted his head and frowned. And what do I tell the foreign dignitaries when they ask why I gave one of my teams a free pass despite their rules being infringed upon, and not one of the other villages? The ANBU lowered their head, having no response. Sighing, the Sandame reached for his pen to sign the warrant. Slam. Only for the door of his office to open, and a Chunin medic standing in the doorway. The Sandame shot his head up. What is going on? It's Anko Mitarashi. The Sandaime shot up from his desk and jumped over it, grabbing the Chunin and screamed, "What?" The Chunin medic nin waved their hand, "Come with me, please." And the medic nin ran off, with the Sandaime in tow. The ANBU simply stood there, and sighed before they turned to leave the office without a signed arrest warrant. Meanwhile, Haruno household. In the civilian district of Konoha, Sakura Haruno